اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم ان اللہ وملائکتہ یصلون علی النبی یا ایہا الذین آمنوا صلوا علیہ وسلموا تسلیما اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم عن جابر ابن عبداللہ الانصاری عن فاطمۃ الزہرا علیہ السلام بنت رسول اللہ قال سمعت فاطمۃ انہا قال دخل علی ابی رسول اللہ فی بعض الايام فقال السلام علیک یا فاطمۃ فقلت علیک السلام قال انی اجد فی بدنی ضعفا فقلت له اعوذک باللہ یا ابتاه من الضعف فقال یا فاطمۃ ائتینی بالکساء الیمانی فغطینی بہ فاتیتہ بالکساء الیمانی فغطیتہ بہ وصرت انظر الیہ واذا وجهه یتلألؤ کأنہ البدر فی لیلۃ تمامہ وکمالہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد فما كانت الا ساعة واذا بولد الحسن قد اقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني واستبرت فوادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه یا رسول اللہ یتأذن لی ان ادخل معك تحت الکساء قال وعلیک السلام یا ولدی و یا صاحب حوضی قد اذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الکساء اللہم صلی علی محمد وآلہ فما كانت الا ساعة واذا بولد الحسین قد اقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني واستبرت فوادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وقعك تحت الكساء فضل الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه السلام عليك يا من اختار الله وتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن أمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيئي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وعامتي لامهم لامي ودمهم دمي يلمني ما يلمهم ويعزلني ما يعزلهم أنا حرب لمن حاربه وسلم لمن سالمه وعدو لمن أذاهم محب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فجل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآله فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مضية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل اللهم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن رسالته هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها. ما صلي على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يخلق السلام ويخصك بتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مضية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة التي ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة استغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام وإذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيه مغموم إلا وفرج الله حما إلهي أمين ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما إلهي ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام وإذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. جزاك الله زيسا. جزاك الله.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. ساری تعریف اللہ کے لیے، درود و سلام محمد و آل محمد کے لیے. مومن و مومنات، آج کا یہ خصوصی پروگرام جو کہ یوتھ انٹریکشن کے لیے منعقد کیا ہے در عباس میں، اس پروگرام سے خصوصی خطاب کے لیے اور ہمارے یوتھ سے انٹریکٹ کرنے کے لیے ڈاکٹر نوید امام صاحب کیلگری کینیڈا سے تشریف لائے ہیں. کل انہوں نے یہاں پہ در عباس میں جشن سے بھی خطاب فرمایا تھا اور اپنی شاعری سے بھی ہمیں مستفیض کیا تھا. لیکن آج کا جو پروگرام ہے وہ اسپیسیفکلی جو ہے وہ یوتھ انٹریکشن کا پروگرام ہے. تو پہلے میں ضیاء بھائی موجود نہیں ہے تو میں وسیع بھائی اور سجاد بھائی کی اجازت سے خواتین کو کہہ دوں کہ وہ یہاں پر اگر وہ آ سکیں. جی تو تمام حضرات سے اوکے I'll speak in English so everybody can understand. So I would request all the gentlemen and kids to please come forward because tonight's program is actually going to be a co-gathering and ladies will be sitting at the back. So ladies, if you can hear me in the ladies section, you're requested to please come to the men's section so we can have an interactive program with Dr. Naweed Imam. Par Muhammad wale Muhammad salawat. So the way we're going to actually have the program tonight is that it's not going to be a long program. Primarily, our guest of honor today is Dr. Naweed Imam. But prior to actually requesting Dr. Naweed Imam to come and deliver his lecture and have a question and answer sessions with the kids, Maulana Hussain Nawab will also come and say a few words. But until he comes, so we would like to have just a few mankabas from the kids. And as soon as Maulana comes, we'll just stop right away. So first of all, Muhammad Abbas, where is Mr. Muhammad Abbas? Please come and deliver your mankaba. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad
Brother Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، خدا کے دے کا نا خدا، خدا کے دے کا نا خدا، ہر ابتدا کی ابتدا کرم کی انتہا حسین ہے، کرم کی انتہا حسین ہے، کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، کرے جو کوئی ہم سری کسی کی کیا مجال ہے، جہاں میں ہر لحاظ سے حسین بے مثال ہے، یہ ہو چکا ہے فیصلہ، یہ ہو چکا ہے فیصلہ، نہ کوئی دوسرا خدا، نہ کوئی دوسرا حسین ہے، نہ کوئی دوسرا حسین ہے، کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے جس کی فکر کربلا حسین وہ دماغ ہے، یہ پنجتن کی انجمن کا پانچواں چراغ ہے، حسن کا پہلا ہم سفر، حسن کا پہلا ہم سفر، علی کا دوسرا پسر، امام تیسرا حسین ہے، امام تیسرا حسین ہے، کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، شہید کربلا کا غم جسے بنا گوار ہے، وہ بدعمل بد نسب اسی پہ بے شمار ہے، ارے او دشمن ازا، ارے او دشمن ازا، تو مر ذرا لحد میں جا، پتہ چلے گا کیا حسین ہے، پتہ چلے گا کیا حسین ہے، کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہی حسین ہے، بقائے لا الہ حسین ہے، بقائے لا الہ حسین ہے، کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہے، حسین ہی حسین ہے، بقائے لا الہ حسین ہے، بقائے لا الہ حسین ہے، کیا حسین ہے، نہ پوچھئے کہ کیا حسین ہے، نعرہ
صلوات. حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ. حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ. کچھ آنسوں کے وزیر کائنات لے جاؤ. حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ. یہ کئی بلا ہے یہ معجز نما کی باستی ہے. یہ کئی بلا ہے یہ معجز نما کی بستی ہے. کفن میں سکے لپیٹو حیات لے جاؤ. حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ. کہیں گے ماتمی حلقوں سے لوگ محشر میں. کہیں گے ماتمی حلقوں سے لوگ محشر میں. ہمیں حسین کی جنت میں ساتھ لے جاؤ. ہمیں حسین کی جنت میں ساتھ لے جاؤ. حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ. نہیں کروں گا لحد میں انتظار صحیح. نہیں کروں گا لحد میں انتظار صحیح. فرشتوں کئی بو بلا راتوں رات لے جاؤ. حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ. غم حسین میں ہر زخم معجزہ ہے نہیں. غم حسین میں ہر زخم معجزہ ہے نہیں. سجا کے جسم پہ کچھ معجزات لے جاؤ. حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ. نعرہ حیدری.
ماشاءاللہ ماشاءاللہ.
سواد جلال رب اولا ہے حسین کا غازی جلال رب اولا ہے حسین کا غازی شبیہ آنکھ سے خدا ہے حسین کا غازی جلال رب اولا ہے حسین کا غازی بغیر ہاتھوں کے دنیا میں ہاتھ والوں کو بغیر ہاتھوں کے دنیا میں ہاتھ والوں کو نصیب بانٹ رہا ہے حسین کا غازی جلال رب اولا ہے حسین کا غازی ہو کیوں نہ اس کے وسیلے سے ہر دعا پوری ہو کیوں نہ اس کے وسیلے سے ہر دعا پوری یہ فاطمہ کی دعا ہے حسین کا غازی جلال رب اولا ہے حسین کا غازی بتا رہا ہے ہمیں مینان زینب کا بتا رہا ہے ہمیں مینان زینب کا غرور آل ابا ہے حسین کا غازی جلال رب اولا ہے حسین کا غازی زمانہ لال قلندر کو نہ سمجھ پایا زمانہ لال قلندر کو نہ سمجھ پایا تو کیسے سمجھے گا کیا ہے حسین کا غازی جلال رب اولا ہے حسین کا غازی شبیہ آنکھ سے خدا ہے حسین کا غازی نعرہ حیدری
Mu'minat, like I stated earlier, today's program is primarily for the interaction between the youth and our very own, I should say, Dr. Naweed Imam. So, since Maulana Nawab is already here, so the way we're going to run the program tonight is, as I announced earlier, Maulana will deliver a short speech prior to Dr. Naweed Imam's lecture, an interactive section which will be a question and answer session as well. So, without further ado, I would like to request Maulana Hussain Nawab to please come and say a few words.
محمد وعلى محمد صلوات
اللهم صل
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم بارئ الخلائق اجمعین فاطر السماوات والارضین ثم الصلاۃ علی رسولہ الکریم جد الحسن والحسین مولانا و مولا الثقلین بالقاسم محمد اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الغر الميامين المحجلين ولعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر فضائلهم من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحب الله من أحب حسين صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. حضرات آج کی شب بہت بابرکت شب ہے. 3 شعبان المعظم ہمارے آپ کے تیسرے امام امام حسین علیہ السلام کی ولادت کی شب ہے. اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد. ڈاکٹر نوید امام یہاں پر موجود ہیں. انشاءاللہ یہ ہماری تمام شیعہ کمیونٹی کے لیے ایسیٹس ہیں اور جو کام انہوں نے کیا وہ ہم سب کے لیے باعث سے فخر ہے. اور انشاءاللہ خدا ان کے تمام کاموں کو محمد آل محمد کے انشاءاللہ دین کی ترویج کا سہارا قرار دے تاکہ وہ جو کام کر رہے ہیں ان سے نہ صرف ان کا نام ہو بلکہ آل محمد جو ہے ان کے کام کی وجہ سے پہچانے جائیں. اور یہ جو حدیث میں نے آپ کو بیان کی نبی کی، اس میں بہت سے معنی و مفہوم ہیں. اللہ اس سے محبت کرتا ہے جو حسین سے محبت کرے. یعنی جب تک انسان امام کی محبت و معرفت حاصل نہیں کرے گا اللہ کی محبت اور معرفت اسے مل نہیں سکتی ہے. اللہ نے امام حسین کو بہت سی برکتیں عطا کی اور ان برکتوں میں ایک برکت یہ ہے کہ عیسیٰ 3 دن کے گہوارے میں بولے تھے انی عبداللہ آتانی الکتابہ وجعلنی نبیہ. 3 اعلان کیے تھے. ایک اعلان کیا تھا کہ میں اللہ کا بندہ ہوں، کتاب رکھتا ہوں اور نبی ہوں. یہ بولنا ان کا دلیل تھی ان کی نبوت پر اور عصمت جناب مریم پر. اللہ نے جو معجزے اہل بیت کو دیے وہ انبیاء سے زیادہ افضل تھے کیونکہ مرتبہ اہل بیت کا انبیاء سے ہمارے رسول کے علاوہ تمام انبیاء سے افضل ہیں. اس کی دلیل ہمارے پاس ہیں اور وہ سب نبیوں نے کہا ہے، اس کے لیے ہمارے پاس دلیلیں. تو اب جب امام حسین کا مرحلہ آیا تو نہ صرف امام حسین کے آنے کے اوپر ملائکہ تبریک و تہنیت لے کر آئے بلکہ فطرس کو حسین نے بالوں پر عطا کر کے بتایا کہ وہ معجزہ عیسیٰ کا تھا کہ بول کے عصمت مریم بچائی تھی. میں اپنے جو ہے وہ وجود سے برکتوں کو نہ صرف زندگی میں دنیا میں بانٹوں گا بلکہ آسمان والے بھی میرے آنے کا فیض پائیں گے. اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد. یہ برکتیں ہیں اور ان میں بہت برکتیں ہیں امام حسین کے ذکر میں. اور ان ذکر کا یہی ایک خاص طریقہ ہے کہ یہ سب معرفت ہے جو بڑھتی ہے. اب آپ بہت اچھی بات کہتے ہیں کہ یہ سب معجزے اب انسان اس کا اندازہ لیا. جب انسان ملک کو نہیں سمجھ سکتا تو جو امام حسین کی فطرت کو عطا اسے کیسے سمجھے گا. انسان ملک کو دیکھ نہیں سکتا، جب دیکھتا ہے تو پھر آگے اور دیکھنے کے قابل نہیں رہتا. تو ان سے کیا مقابلہ کرے گا کہ جو ملک کی شفاعت کر رہے ہوں، ملک جن کا آ کر گہوارہ جھلائے، ملک آ کر جن کے دروازے پر درزی کہہ کر فخر محسوس کرے. یہ عظمت در امام حسین علیہ السلام کی ہے جو ہمیشہ بڑھتی رہیں گی. دوسری چیز کہ امام حسین کی معرفت نہ صرف انسانوں کو اور ملائکہ کو ہے، ہر شے کو امام حسین کی معرفت ہے. ہر شے کو امام حسین، ہر شے پہ ولایت ہے اور ہر شے پہ معرفت ہے. معرفت کی دلیل کیا ہے؟ ایک بار صلوات پڑھتے ہیں. اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد.
بغور سننے زمانہ حسین ایسے تھے،
اور
سننے زمانہ
حسین ایسے تھے،
بقا فنا کو بنایا
حسین ایسے تھے،
اور لہو سے سینچ کے اپنے زمین صحرا کو جواب خلد بنایا
حسین ایسے تھے.
بہت سمجھنے پہ حد ہے، بہت سمجھنے پہ بھی حق تو ہے کہ حق کی قسم، بہت سمجھنے پہ بھی
حق تو ہے
کہ
حق کی قسم.
سمجھ سکا نہ زمانہ
حسین ایسے تھے. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ. حیدری یا علی. یہی عطا امام حسین ہے. امام حسین کی عطاؤں کا بھی خاصیت ہے عزیزان گرامی کہ امام حسین نے سب کو دیا ہے اور سب کو دیتے ہیں. یہ خصوصیت ہے کیونکہ ہر قوم پکارے گی ہمارے حسین. یہ تو معرفت کی بات ہے، لیکن آج بھی ہر قوم پکارتی ہے، ہر قوم در امام حسین پہ آتی ہے، ہر قوم کو امام حسین عطا کیا ہے. تو اس کی ایک بہت بڑی ہمارے لیے دلیل ہے. وہ دلیل یہ کہ جب راہب کو قسمت میں نہ ہوتے ہوئے حسین 7 پسر دیتے ہیں. ہمارے یہاں میں جے پور میں عرض کیا تھا، جے پور کی جو کربلا ہے اس میں دھاوئی جی کی دی ہوئی ہے. وہ ہندو ہیں، ان کو اس لیے دی کیونکہ اولاد نہیں تھی. وہ امام تو کسی نے کہا امام حسین مانگ لو دے دیں گے. راہب کو بھی دیے تمہیں بھی دے دیں گے. وہ گیا اور اس نے عقیدے سے مانگا، اولاد ہوئی. اس نے اپنی ساری زمین امام حسین کے نام کر دی. ہمارے یہاں جو وقف بورڈ ہے وہ سب مکس ہے، تمام مسلمانوں کا ہے. تو اس پہ اسکول بنانے لگے تو وہ آ گئے. انہوں نے کہا میں نے امام حسین کو دی، آپ کو نہیں دی، مسلمانوں کو نہیں دی. اس لیے اسے اسی پرپس کے لیے استعمال کرو جس پرپس کے لیے میں دی. یہاں تعزیے دفن ہوں گے، کربلا ہے، کسی اور کام میں تبدیل نہیں. تو امام سب کو دیتے ہیں. اس کی دلیل یہی تھا کہ امام حسین نے بتایا کہ میں خیر کا منبع بن گیا، اپنے وجود سے ہر ایک شخص کو عطا کرتا ہوں. یہ ہماری ذمہ داری بچے آئیں جو انشاءاللہ ہمیشہ امام حسین کا ذکر کرتے ہیں، امام حسین کا یہاں پر جو ہے تذکرہ کرتے ہیں، اس میں ہمیشہ جو ہے پارٹیسپیٹ کرتے ہیں. تو امام سے ان کی معرفت اور دینی و دنیاوی علوم مانگے کہ مولا آپ کی معرفت ہو اور آپ کے ذریعے ہمیں اس دنیا اور آخرت میں ہر شے کی معرفت ہو، تاکہ ہم آپ کے جو ہے وہ چاہنے والے اس معنی میں کہلائیں کہ لوگ جب ہمیں دیکھیں تو نہ صرف ہم پہ فخر کریں بلکہ ہمارا نام آپ سے جب جڑے تو آپ بھی ہمارے کارناموں پہ فخر کریں. یہ بہت بڑی دولت ہے جو انسان عطا کرتا ہے. ہمارے بچے ماشاءاللہ پڑھتے ہیں. ابھی نوید بھائی آپ خدمت عرض کریں، میرے پاس بہت مختصر وقت ہے لیکن آج کی شب برکت تھی اس لیے چند چیزیں آپ خدمت عرض کر دی تاکہ ہم امام حسین کی خدمت میں اپنے جو ہے وہ سلام کو پیش کر سکیں. سلام کی بڑی عطا ہے، بڑی عطا ہے اور اس کا بڑا اثر ہے. میں بچوں کے لیے صرف ایک چیز پیش کر دوں. امام اس کا واقعہ میں جب وہاں گیا ہوا تھا تو ایک عالم نے سنایا تھا اور میں نے پھر کتاب میں بھی اسے دیکھا، بڑی معتبر کتاب میں تھا. امام حسین کی طرف سے ان بچوں کے لیے ایک پیغام بھی رہے گا. پھر نوید بھائی کے لیے چند بات کہتے ہیں، میں بات کو ختم کر دوں. زرگامی وہ کہتے ہیں ایک جوان تھا، جب زیارت پہ جاتے معرفت امام حسین کی اتنی محبت کرتے ہیں تو انسان کی اپنے چشم بینا جتنی کھل جائے اس کے اوپر ڈپینڈ کرتا ہے. تو وہ جب جاتا تھا تو وہ زیارت کے لیے جب کربلا میں داخل ہوتا تھا تو وہ زری کو دیکھ کے مسکراتا تھا، زری کو دیکھ کے مسکراتا تھا. جوان تھا. تو کچھ لوگوں نے اسے ٹوکا کہ بھئی تم یہاں پہ آ کے جو آداب زیارت ہیں ان کو بجا نہیں لاتے، اس نے دخول نہیں پڑھتے، اندر آتے ہو تو تم بس زری کو دیکھ کے مسکراتے ہو. بول میں کیا کروں، مسکراتا ہوں. بہت جب کسی نے تنبیہ کی بہت تو اس نے جواب دیا کہ میں کیا کروں. مسئلہ ایسا ہے کہ میں جب زیارت کو یہاں پر آتا تھا تو میں غریب تھا تو میرے والدین کو میں زیارت کو اپنے ساتھ لاتا تھا. تو میں اپنے کندھے پہ بٹھا کر ایک جمعرات کو اپنے والد کو لاتا تھا، ایک جمعرات کو اپنی ماں کو لاتا تھا. یہ میرا طریقہ تھا. بچوں کے لیے پیغام ہے امام حسین کا، بچوں یاد رکھیں. تو ایک جمعرات کو میری ماں نے مجھ سے کہا کہ اس جمعرات کو ہم جائیں گے. تو کہا ٹرن تو بابا کا ہے، آپ کو تو نیکسٹ ویک ہے، میں لاسٹ ویک آپ کو لے کے گیا تھا. بولے نہیں ہم جائیں گے. میں نے والد سے کہا کہ بھائی ٹرن آپ کا ہے لیکن ماں انسسٹ کر رہی ہیں تو میں انہیں لے جاؤں. بولے کیوں انسسٹ کریں گے؟ بول کے کیا پتہ اگلے ہفتے زندہ رہیں کہ نہ رہیں. تو باپ نے کہا ہمیں کیا پتہ ہم زندہ رہیں نہ رہیں. تو اس نے کہا ٹھیک ہے آپ دونوں ہی انسسٹ کرتے ہیں، میں دونوں کو لے چلتا ہوں. تو ایک کو کندھے بٹھاتا تھا، تھوڑی دور لے جا کے چھوڑ دیتا تھا، پھر آتا تھا، دوسرے کو کندھے بٹھاتا تھا، پھر لے جاتا تھا. کہتا اس دن میں اتنا تھک گیا کیونکہ دوہرا کام تھا، تو میں اتنا تھک گیا کہ مجھ سے اب ہمت نہیں تھی کہ میں وہ آداب زیارت انجام دوں اور پھر زیارت کو جاؤں. تو میں تھکا ہوا جب اندر گیا، اندر جانے کے بعد میں نے زری کو دیکھا تو میں زری نہیں امام حسین نظر آئے. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. امام دیکھ کر مجھے مسکرا رہے تھے تو میں ان کو پلٹ کے مسکرانے لگا. اب جب میں آتا ہوں کیونکہ میں نہیں مسکراتا، امام کی مسکراہٹ کا جواب مسکراہٹ سے دیتا ہوں. تذہان بچوں کو اگر تم نے والدین کی خدمت کی تو امام حسین تمہارے کام پہ مسکرائیں گے، اور والدین کی عزت کا سبب بنے تو والدین تمہیں دعائیں دیں گے. یہ بہت بڑی چیز ہے. اور ماشاءاللہ اب یہ بہت بڑی اثر ہے، بہت ماشاءاللہ آپ کے لیے بہترین چیز ہے کہ بچے ہمارے پڑھتے ہیں. میں ہمیشہ انکریج کرتا ہوں بچوں کو کہ تم ہمیشہ بیسٹ فیلڈ میں جاؤ، سب سے زیادہ علم حاصل کرو تاکہ تمہاری آنے والی زندگی آسانی سے گزرے. اگر تم یہ آخر جو چند سال ہیں 8 گریڈ سے لگا کے جو ہے وہ کالج کے جو 4 سال کے بیچ کا، اگر اس میں تھوڑی محنت کر لو گے تو زندگی بھر آرام پاؤ گے. 1 گھنٹے کی محنت تمہیں 1 مہینے کے آرام کے ایکولنٹ ہے، کہ ریشو ہے کہ تمہاری زندگی کا آخر گزرے گا یہ. اور بہت اچھی زندگی گزارو، تھوڑی سی محنت کرو. بچے کرتے ہیں ماشاءاللہ، ہمارے ساتھ ایکسلنٹ کرتے ہیں، لیکن گائیڈنس نہیں ہوتی کدھر جائیں. یہ ماشاءاللہ نوید امام بھائی نے ہمارے بہترین کام کیا. خود ماشاءاللہ سائنٹسٹ نے، خود اتنی انہوں نے ماشاءاللہ دنیا میں جانے کے بعد علم کو فروغ دیا. ہمارے ساتھ ایران بھی گئے تھے، وہاں پہ ماشاءاللہ کافی ان کی عزت تھی. وہ مولا نے ان کو کافی نوازا ہے. تو ان کے ذریعے بچے دیکھیں جو بتانے والے ہیں. بہت اچھی چیز کل جس کا تذکرہ کر رہے تھے کہ ہمارے بچوں کو پتہ نہیں ہوتا فیوچر کیا ہے. ڈاکٹر تقی بیٹھے ہیں، ہمارے ڈاکٹر سمی بیٹھے ہیں، بہترین ماشاءاللہ. ہمارے کمیونٹی میں کمی نہیں ہے ٹیلنٹ کی، اور بچوں نے ماشاءاللہ ہمارے بہت ایکسل کیا، بہت محنت کرتے ہیں، بہت اچھا آگے بڑھ رہے ہیں. لیکن ابھی وہ ہمارے لیے جو ہے وہ مواقع فراہم نہیں ہوئے ہیں جو اور ہونے چاہیے. کیونکہ ابھی ہم ہاسپٹل میں جاب کرتے ہیں. ہمارا ڈریم ہے کہ ہمارا ہاسپٹل ہمارا کالج ہو. جب ہمارے پاس 50-60 ڈاکٹرز ہیں تو ہمیں 60 ڈاکٹرز کو مل کے اپنا خود کا کالج بنانا چاہیے. ہم کیوں کسی کے کالج میں جا کے پڑھیں؟ ہمارا خود کا انسٹیٹیوشن. اب وہ زمانہ آ گیا کہ ہم جو ہے اس دور میں جا کے سوچیں کہ جہاں ہمیں آگے بڑھنا ہے. ہمارے اتنے سارے آئی ٹی کے بچے ہیں ماشاءاللہ. ان آئی ٹی کے بچوں کا خود کی اپنی فرم ہونا چاہیے، دوسروں کو پروڈکٹ دیں. ہم خود پروڈکٹ کرتے ہیں تو اب ہم اس لیول پہ جائیں جہاں ہم لوگوں کے لیے باعث خیر بن سکیں. اور یہ اس لیے ضروری ہے کہ آج آپ نے دیکھا جب وار ہو رہی ہے تو وار میں کیا ہوا ہے. میں نے اس بچوں کو کہا تھا کہ کل جب خطبے میں کیا عرض کیا تھا کہ کل تلوار سے لڑتے تھے، اب تلوار سے نہیں لڑا جاتا، اسکل سے لڑے. کیوں؟ نبی نے کہا تھا اپنے بچوں کو تعلیم دو تیر اندازی کی، تلوار چلانے کی، گھڑ سواری کی اور سوئمنگ کی، کیونکہ یہ ان کے اسکلز کو بڑھاتی ہیں. آج اسکلز بڑھ گئے تو آپ تلوار سے اپنے جو ہے وہ ملک کی حفاظت کرتے ہیں. آج سائبر سیکورٹی کی ضرورت ہے. آج آپ کو سیکورٹی کے لیے کسی اور چیز کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے. آج آپ کو کمپیوٹر کا ایکسپرٹ ہونا پڑے گا، آپ کا اپنا سیٹلائٹ ہونا چاہیے، آپ کا اپنا میڈیا ہونا چاہیے. میں نے بارہا کہا کہ آپ کا سارا میٹیریل جو یوٹیوب پہ، کل اگر یوٹیوب ہم سے بگڑ جائے اور ہماری تمام مجاز سب چیز کو دے دے تو ہماری زندگی بھر کی محنت زیرو ہو جائے گی. تو وی ہیو ٹو پریپیئر فار دیٹ. وی ہیو آور اون میڈیا، آور اون لائک دا تھنگس ٹو ڈیولپ. تو وہ چیز اس پہ جانا ہے اور اس پہ کتنی ہم کو محنت کرنی، کتنا آگے جانا ہے کہ ہمارے پاس کچھ ہو تاکہ اس کے بدلے میں ہم سامنے والے کہتے ہیں کہ اتنے یہ روکا تو ہم یہ روک دیں گے. اس ایکویلنٹ پہ ہم کو جانا پڑے گا. اس کے لیے سب کو محنت کرنی ہے، سب کو ایک دوسرے کا ساتھ دینا ہے اور تمام مسلمانوں کو مل کے تاکہ اس جگہ پہ جائیں کہ جہاں ہم ڈومینیٹ کریں، لوگ ہمارے اوپر جو ہے وہ حکومت نہ کریں. کیونکہ امام کی جو ہے وہ اطاعت اور محبت کا سب سے بڑا پیغام یہی ہے کہ جہاں جاؤ سب سے بہتر بن کر دکھاؤ تاکہ تم ہمارے چاہنے والے کہلاؤ. تمہارے ذریعے ہم پہچانے جائیں، ہمارے ذریعے تم پہچانے جاؤ. تو انشاءاللہ اس کے لیے کوشش کریں. خدا آپ کو کامیاب کرے ہمیشہ. امام حسین انشاءاللہ آپ کے تمام ان کاموں پر دیکھ کر مسکرائیں اور آپ اس کے ذریعے ان سے دعائیں پائیں انشاءاللہ. خدا ہمارے نوید امام بھائی کو، ہمارے بھائی کو، تمام جو مومنین بیٹھے ہیں سب کو انشاءاللہ طول عمر برکت عنایت کرے. ان کی زندگی میں ہمیشہ خیر و برکت رہے اور یہ کاروان عزا اسی طرح چلتا رہے اور امام حسین کی دعائیں ہمارے کام آئیں انشاءاللہ. آج خوشی کا دن ہے. امام حسین آپ کو اپنی دعائیں سے خوش کریں انشاءاللہ. اور ہمیشہ جو نوید بھائی آپ کو بتانے والے ہیں، ڈاکٹر نوید امام بتانے والے ہیں، غور سے سنیں انشاءاللہ. اپنے لیے بہترین جو ہے وہ پروفیشن چنیں اور اس کے لیے اٹوٹ محنت کریں کہ اسی کا نتیجہ ہے کہ آپ ہمیشہ کامیاب ہوں گے. بغیر محنت کے کامیابی ممکن نہیں ہے. محنت کرنا ہماری سب سے پہلی ذمہ داری ہے اور دین کے لیے ماشاء محنت کرتے ہیں، دنیا محنت کریں تاکہ خدا آپ کو کامیاب کرے. ایک دوسرے کا سہارا بنیں، ایک دوسرے کا ساتھ دیں. اسی پہ امام ہمیشہ ہم سے راضی و خوش رہتے ہیں. اللہم صلی علی محمد و علی محمد محمد و علی محمد. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم ارزقنا ایمانا صادقا و لسانا ذاکرا و قلبا خاشعا و بدنا صابرا و علما نافعا و عملا متقبلا و رزقا واسعا و زوجتا صالحا و ولدا صالح. پالنے والے جو آستہ پاک حاضر مجلس کی نیک حاجات مات قبول فرما. پالنے والے ہم اس وقت دنیا سے اٹھائیں تک ہمارے گناہوں پہ عفو کرم پھیر دے. ہمارے مرحومین کی مغفرت فرما. حاضر جماعت میں شیعہ حیدر قرار میں جمنات بیمار سب کو شفائے کامل عاجل عطا فرما. تمام عزادار امام حسین، امام حسین محمد آل محمد کو دنیا اور تمام امور دینی دنیا میں کامیابی عطا فرما. ہمارے جو اس میں کامیابی عطا فرما. ہمارے جو رشتوں کی تلاش میں بہر فرما. تمام ہمارے جو عزتداری کے لیے ستون پالنے والے ان کو طول عمر بابرکت عنایت فرما. ڈاکٹر امام تمام ڈاکٹر جو دین کی خدمت کریں تمام نات کو طول عمر بابرکت عنایت فرما. ہمارے امام زمان کے ظہور میں تاجر عطا فرما. ہم کو ان کے انصار و اعوان قرار دے.
جزاک اللہ قبلہ، جزاک اللہ. مولا توفیقات میں اضافہ فرمائے. مومن و مومنات, ladies and gentlemen, So as I had mentioned earlier, that tonight is a very special program, particularly for the youth. And Dr. Naweed Imam has come all the way from Calgary to address the youth and answer the questions over here. So there's just a couple of requests that I would like to make. Number one, he's actually going to have a presentation, a PowerPoint. So in order for you to view the PowerPoint properly, if you can actually scoot over towards the right side, so you can just have a good look at the PowerPoint. And secondly, since we are having a co-gathering over here today, the ladies are sitting at the back, so I would like to request all the kids and all the gentlemen to please come forward a little so we can actually move forward with our program. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. So Zia Bhai, yesterday Abu Bhai actually made a very good request, and it was that before inviting Dr. Naweed Imam, I think we should have a proper introduction. Kya? Kya keh rahe? If you can turn this light off. Okay. So I'm sure everyone knows Dr. Naweed Imam very, very well, but I would just like to, इसको बंद कर सकते हैं? इसको बंद कर देंगे. अच्छा, okay, ठीक है. So just a little bit of introduction about Dr. Naweed Imam. Dr. Naweed Imam was born in Attock, Pakistan, but originally he spent majority of his childhood and his adolescence in Karachi. And then after that he traveled to England, where he did his master's and PhD, all based on scholarship, and he was one of the shining stars of the university of that time. He's been living in Canada for quite a while right now, I think from 1988. He's currently a senior professor at the University of Calgary, and he's also the head of department over there. His primary research is related to the connecting of neurons to the chips, and this is something that he has been doing over for the last 30 years. As far as his honors and recognitions are concerned, he's the recipient of Outstanding Scientist Award from Asian Community in Toronto, Canadian Sensation Award from South Asian Media Express Network, Distinguished Award for Outstanding Contributions to Biomedical Research by Pakistan-Canada Association, Outstanding Collaboration Award, Canadian Global Care Award for recognition. In addition to that, he was also awarded Tamgha-e-Imtiyaz, which is the highest civilian award in Pakistan in 2017. And along with that, he also got the highest civilian award in Canada, which is the Canada 150 medal by the Canadian Senate. So, mashallah, God has blessed him a lot, but like I stated yesterday, the biggest quality, of course, is the fact that he is a great lover of Ahl Bayt, and he's a great azadar of Imam Hussain, and he's a great example, I should say, a paragon for our youth, and that's the reason he's here, for the youth to actually hold him as a model, ask him questions, and serve him, consider him as a beacon of light for all the youth to make sure that they understand how to move forward in their professional careers. Because before moving further, as far as knowledge is concerned, I would like to quote William Shakespeare over here. He once said that ignorance is a curse of God, and knowledge is the wing which takes us to the heaven. So as far as knowledge is concerned, there is no limit to it, and Dr. Naweed Imam is going to shed more light on it. Dr. Saab, before calling upon you, since I've quoted Shakespeare, I think we must say something about our Ahl Bayt. So I would just like to say that yesterday you had a verse over here, जिसमें आपने कहा था कि खुदा से पहले मैं अली का नाम लेता हूँ, तो उसी सिलसिले में बस 2 मिसरे 4 मिसरे, और वो इस तरह है कि खुदा के बाद इसमें बानिए इस्लाम लेता हूँ, खुदा के बाद इसमें बानिए इस्लाम लेता हूँ, फिर अपने सर हंसी शरीयत का ये इल्ज़ाम लेता हूँ, और अली जो बाए बिस्मिल्लाह के नुक्ते में शामिल हैं, अली जो बाए बिस्मिल्लाह के नुक्ते में शामिल हैं, तो बिस्मिल्लाह से पहले मैं अली का नाम लेता हूँ, तो बिस्मिल्लाह से पहले मैं Ali ka naam leta hoon. I would like to request Dr. Naweed Imam to please come and deliver his flowery speech and make sure that all the kids are going to get all the benefit out of it. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. अरे वो बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट डॉक्टर साहब ने मुझे बोला था कि एक फजीलत मैं ऑफ कोर्स बताना भूल ही गया, और नेचुरली, और वो ये है कि डॉक्टर नवीद इमाम साहब माशाल्लाह कराची से इनका ताल्लुक़ है, और ज़िया भाई, वसी भाई, और डॉक्टर साहब, और नकी भाई, और सज्जाद भाई के इलाके से रिजविया से इनका ताल्लुक़ है. तो डॉक्टर साहब ने कहा था हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, आप इनके इलाके से हैं, लेकिन आप सब ज़िया भाई के इलाके से हैं. मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सरवा.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। क़िबला ने बहुत ही खूबसूरती के साथ जो इमाम हुसैन के फ़ज़ाइल बयान किए, तो उसी सिलसिले में मैं भी कहूँगा कि इस बज़्म में है मिदहत शब्बीर की खुशबू। जिस तरह से है शाम ने खोले हुए गेसू, खुशबू मेरे अल्फाज की फैली हुई हर सू। हर लफ्ज़ को चूमे है मवद्दत का तराजू, हर लफ्ज़ को तोले है मवद्दत का तराजू। मातम के हैं ये दाग जो सीने पे सजे हैं, फितरुस तुझे सुरखाब के पर आज लगे हैं। So there will be some questions that I will also pose, so people have to really stay, especially the youth have to stay awake. And if you manage to answer 2 of those questions, I will gift you my own chip. So the very first prototype chip that we had planted, inshallah, that will be for you. So before I really discuss anything about my own research, जिनकी नौकरी है ज़िया भाई, उनका वो नौकरी मैं पहले पूरी कर दूं, और उसके बाद से then I would really share some research, my own personal research, as well as it's really important. Imam Ali alayhi salam said that prepare your generation not for your time, because your time has already gone. Prepare your youth for the time for them that is yet to come. So it's really important that we need to make sure that our children are exposed to some latest sophisticated state-of-the-art technology, that they will be able to really pursue and seek their careers as well. Those days are gone. As I gave the example yesterday, somebody asked Wayne Gretzky, how come you have that many assists? So, he said certain things. So you guys watch hockey here? You've got a good hockey team, right? You don't watch hockey? Okay, that's okay. We won't hold that against you. So, he said 100% of the shots that you don't take, you don't score. And he said, I don't wait for the puck to come to me, I go where the puck is. And then he said, how come you have that many assists? And he said, I don't pass puck to my partner where he is, but where he's supposed to be. If I passed him puck here, he's skating so fast that the actual puck will be trapped on the blue line and the other team's going to score. So what we try to do, I think this is what is a tremendous effort of this center, that youth have gotten this opportunity, and what we are doing is we are actually making a program that we will pick 5 children from your center and we will adopt them for the month of summers. And we will train them in various different techniques and expose them to really state-of-the-art technology. We do this with Idara Joffrey. Every year their students will come and they spend time in my lab, and this year the 2 students have been picked. We do a little essay competition where the students will write an essay, and the topic last time was that if I were a student of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam's class, what question would have I asked him and which discipline I would have actually followed. So we will do inshallah here as well. So, and it's open to both boys and girls, anybody who really wants to come. This year there's 1 boy and girl. They will be coming and spending some time with us inshallah. So I think we should really do this and promote our youth in that area. For some reason it's not working. Is my cable in? Okay, now it should be good. No, still not working. It is on. It's automatically on. So. Oh, it's going to be really tough for them.
I can do it. I'm like right here. I'm right here next to it. I'm literally next to it. It's like gonna be right here. So I can just pause it. Okay, I'm going to
Or maybe I can ask.
It worked. Okay, it worked. I can do it.
You can do it?
Yeah.
All right. So one of you, I don't want to both of you. So this is Calgary, right? This is our health publicity department. We attract people saying how wonderful it is, but how it actually looked like when I left. Could I have the slide, please? This is how it looks like. Sometimes we actually can't even find our cars, right? It gets buried under the snow. The fun part is that the challenges are always there in life, but the most important thing is to find the ways to get out of them. And I think that is key to success, you know, how you can really move forward. So, next one, please. So why this session? This is really something important that Zia Bhai and also Zulfikar Bhai and many other members of your community had really asked to discuss, was that why is that this session important? I believe that our lives belong to a whole community, and as long as we live, it is our privilege to do whatever we can to raise the tide, not just individually ourselves, but raise the tide so all boats can come up. So the community building, community uplift, as Maulana just described so eloquently, is something that is really, really important, that we need to become self-sufficient in all aspects of life. None of us is as smart as all of us. So the other important thing is to get the right people in the room to be able to really deliver. We can't just assign jobs to different people just because they are nice or they look good. You need to really make sure that the qualification is actually there. And most important part as a Shia is that the service is the rent that we pay for the privilege of being part of Azai Imam Hussain alayhi salam. This is something really important, that service we render to community is something that's really, really important for us to follow. So this session, I will walk you through some interesting aspects of it, and then I will show you what we have done in terms of our research and what inspired us, and then finally I will take you 50 years in the future and tell you what the challenges are for you, okay, so you can prepare. So my take-home message right from really for learners is that oftentimes your parents, teachers will tell you, don't do something that is wrong. I would say that it's okay to be wrong. There's no harm in actually being wrong. And if you have done it right all the time, something you perfected, you're probably wrong. Okay? That's an important takeaway. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is really something also important, that you need to be really carefully plan your future. Nothing is random. Hope is never a good strategy. If you think that you're going to shoot an arrow in the air and a bird will come in front of you, that will not happen. So the important thing actually is that you should plan really well. One day in library will save you 3 months in the lab. It's important if you're doing research, you do your homework. Read up literature. A person who doesn't read is no better than a person who cannot read. Unfortunately, one of the biggest faults that has happened in our community is that we have stopped reading ourselves. And as a result, we rely on others, and they come and deliver, and we expect that in 12 days of Muharram, we will become learned scholars. So it's really important that we should start to learn ourselves. And if you wish to succeed, I would say double the rate of your failures. Don't be afraid of failures, okay? Failing is actually key to succeeding in any aspects of your life. And it's also not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. So you could have a skill set or an education, but it is useless if you don't put it to the proper use as well. It's not what you have, as I said, but what you do with what you have. And remember that the absence of evidence is not the evidence for absence. If somebody says, show me God, and you cannot show them the God, it doesn't mean that the God doesn't exist. And the same applies in science as well, and the scientific principles as well. And remember, is the service, is the rent that we pay for the privilege of being attached to Azai Sayyidul Shuhada, and also Imam Hussein's, door, or Dar-E Ahl Bayt, is the service. So step up and serve any which way that you can. Mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open, right? So you have to open your mind and accept all kinds of critique and criticism if you really want to succeed in the life. And I would say the best way to make your dream come true is to wake up. Many a times in our communities, when they have dreams, they say, dream big. They says, I'm going to go back and dream some more. And I tell you one of the story of one of my best students. He joined my lab and he said, when I finished my PhD, I would have developed a cyborg. And that cyborg will be half human, half machine. So I said to him, I am going to give you an F, because it's not feasible, because you cannot achieve this in 4 years of your PhD. So I gave him an F. And I said to him, look, this is long weekend, you come back, I will change my grade if you change your proposal. This kid comes back to me on Tuesday. He pushed that paper towards me and he said, Dr. Syed, you can keep your F, I'm keeping my dream. He finished his PhD with MD at the same time and published 19 papers. That's really what you need to succeed. You need to have the belief in yourself and that firepower to push it through. Move forward, please. Remember that not everyone can become a rocket scientist or become professor at Harvard, Stanford, or MIT. That's okay. But everyone has the capabilities of being an honest and a human being. I think that is really, really important, as that you have the role models who are humble, kind, gentle, like Zia Bhai here. These are the people who are really the true role models for the community. Become a decent human being. It doesn't cost us anything. That is really key. If the Dar-E Ahl Muhammad and the teachings of our Masumeen, they don't take us there, we collectively have failed our children. So, who are we and what defines us? This is an important thing that we always like to discuss among our own Shias. Who are we? We worship no one but Allah, and are the followers of Masumeen and Ahlul Bayt. This is our identity. We derive our inspiration from the guidance from Quran and then the family of Prophet, peace be upon him. This is what we are. So in case people start to lose their own identity, this is just a quick reminder. Azadari hamari shahr aa gaye. This is our lifeline, and wilayat is our zinat, which separates us from other. This is who we are. Knowledge is our treasure and wisdom is our heritage. The majalis are actually our universities. This is the unique aspects that no one in the world has it. Where you have children, the elderly, men, women, sitting together, and we are going through Quran, prophets, hadith, philosophy, history. Everything is taught in that classroom. No one in the world actually has. So do not give up on this azadari or majalis. This is absolutely essential for the survival, and this is what has actually kept us alive. Is farsh aza ko nahi hum sab ki zarurat hai azadari shabbir. मेहनत से बना करते हैं नक्शे गमे सरवर सज्जाद की मेहनत है आज़ादारी शब्बीर. So this is something that we should really maintain and we follow. And then remember, the service to humanity is our mandate, and we like to live in peace with everyone else. So Islam is a religion of peace. We condemn and condone terrorism in its all shapes, forms, and manifestations. A Shia of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and also Imam Ali alayhi salam can never follow the path of a terrorist. Like these people are now doing कि कब भला अपने बुजुर्गों से ये कम लाते हैं, वो सनम लाते थे मस्जिद में, ये बम लाते हैं. तो वो मस्जिद जो एक एक peaceful spot था, they have actually turned it into a massacre for innocent people. So this is who we really are. This is what defines us. It's not that hard to really know and remember what this is. Could I have the next slide? So, knowledge is really the key aspect of our identity. Prophet, peace be upon him, said, when you go in search of knowledge, the angels spread their wings underneath your feet. The fish down in the bottom of the ocean and the birds in the sky, they ask for your forgiveness. And Prophet also said, a scholar in his community is just like a prophet in his own community. So the status of scholars and ulama that we have, it must be revered and respected at the highest level, because this is what we really are told. So knowledge is power, Imam Ali has said, and it can command obedience. Just like Maulana said, knowledge is power and it can command obedience. A man of knowledge during his life can make people obey and follow him, and he is praised and venerated even after death. So when you become a scientist or a scholar, you write a book or a chapter, that book or chapter will always be in the library long after you're gone. So you actually are alive even after your death. So start writing, okay? Write as much as you can, because this is what will make you immortal, and you cannot ask for anything more. Imam Ali also said that your superiority over other is in preparation to the extent of your knowledge and wisdom. You have seen in the current worlds, people, nations that have knowledge and wisdom, they are the ones that are ruling the rest of the world. It is also important that a Shia of Imam Ali must excel in the acquisition about knowledge and wisdom. Now, also Imam Ali said that the knowledge that stays on your tongues, you only described it, it is superficial. No one can actually benefit from it. So put that knowledge to practice. And this is something that's really important for us to also think about. That intrinsic value of knowledge is that you act upon him. हम अली को तो मानते हैं, हम अली की नहीं मानते. So this is really something important, and the teachings of our Masumins, we should emulate them. We should encapsulate them in our characters and our personality, and then go in the conquest of knowledge. That is something that's really important. And then Imam Ali also said, alayhi salam said, the one who takes lesson from the events of life gets vision. Unfortunately, as a community, we have not gotten the vision. We have gotten each and every imam killed by these terrorists. And even today, we are getting our people killed all the time. So this is really important, that we should get the vision. The one who acquires vision becomes wise, and then who attains wisdom achieves knowledge. This is one of the most beautiful hadiths that I know of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Here he takes us full circle back, and full circle back that the knowledge actually will come from your real life experiences in the world. You learn the lessons, and then you move on. It's okay to make a mistake, but don't make the same mistake twice. So it's really important, something to think about. There are many educated people who have ruined their faith on account of their ignorance of religion. Many people in our community who think they're educated, and once they become educated, I don't need faith. So they give up faith. I was interviewed by CNN the first time we had our chip, and then he said to me that we live in the United States, we've got so much money, where do you derive your inspiration from? So I said to him, Quran and Ahlul Bayt. And he looked at me, he says, I get the Quran, but what is this Ahlul Bayt stuff? So I introduced Ahlul Bayt. Zia bhai, Mamu ghar pe Muharram ka chand hua tha. He was watching live CNN. तो वो मुझसे कहने लगा कि what is Ahlul Bayt? When I introduced them, he said, oh, your faith is really strong. मैंने उससे कहा कि I can write the best essay in a manuscript. You take this light off, I cannot read it. मेरा faith जो है provides the true meanings to my knowledge. Without it, it really is pointless. So Imam Ali has also said that the knowledge, is important, but at the same time, there are many educated people who have ruined their faith on account of ignorance of religion. Their knowledge did not prove any avail to them. So make sure that you are educated, but at the same time, मुत्तसिल रहें दर आले मोहम्मद के साथ. Stay attached to this door, because this is the actual door of knowledge where it will provide true meanings to what you have learned. Imam Ali alayhi salam also said that the most complete gift of God is life based on knowledge. जिसके पास knowledge नहीं है उसकी कोई इबादत कबूल नहीं है. It's pointless because you have really not pondered or thought about. Imam Ali has also said that the learned man understands the ignorance, for he once was ignorant himself. Somebody asked Imam Ali, how much knowledge should I acquire? He said, how much? Imam Ali said, at least that much so you can recognize your ignorance, right? ताकि आपको अपनी जहालत का अंदाज़ा हो सके. You know, it's such a beautiful thing to say. And then Imam Ali said that knowledge gives life to soul. You know, to respect the learned is to respect God. So the scholars and our Maulana and ulama, to respect them is as if you respect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Practice makes knowledge perfect, and Imam Ali said the value of man lies in what he has mastered. So master the skills, you become the best, you become irreplaceable. Okay, that's something really important to take away. Could we change the slide? Now I will say something that really hurts my heart, okay? And I think the things have to be said. The bitter reality is that we have been guilty in regards to our duty towards our Masumin alayhi salam, especially Imam Ali, the man whom we, more than others, take pride in following, right? So this is something really important, and it bothers me. We have either unintentionally or could not intellectually recognize the significance of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He's saying, Saluni, Saluni. No one in the world, in the entire universe, ever stood up and he said, ask me what you wish to ask. I know my ways around the universe more than I know my way around here. I know if you ask me from Torah, I will respond you from Torah. If you ask me for Bible, I will respond you from Bible. And people are saying, how many hair do I have, right? Somebody could have stood up and he said, Mawla, could you tell us the path to Venus, Mars? How can we land on Mars? But that intellectual capacity is the one that has really, we deprived Imam at the time. And even today, I think we are depriving him. All our intentions has been devoted to Prophet's hadith that are towards, Imam Ali alayhi salam. We just quote them. Or we, look at other people who have ignored him for many, many reasons. Muawiya ne 10 saal tak Maula Kainat pe tabarruk kiya, 300 saal Bani Umayya ne Ali ka naam nahi lene diya, right? So we are stuck in that paradigm where we completely recapitulating and we're staying in that paradigm, and we fail to pay attention to the actual intellectual aspects of Imam Ali alayhi salam. I give you an example. Every time when I chaired university's committee, I will cite Imam Ali's quote. And one of the Jewish professors said to me, who is this guy, Ali ibn Abi Talib? I've never heard of him, right? A geology professor. And I said to him, you're a Jew. You don't want to know who he was. He wasn't very kind to you guys. No, tell me. I gave him Najul Balagha. I went Pakistan. When I came back, he kept sending messages. I want to see you. And when we met, he said, I read the first sermon. That person has either created this world or is the eyewitness. He's actually seen. हमारे जो अपने बाबुल हवाइज का जो जुलूस जाता है वो यहूदी सबसे पहले अलम उठा के वही जाता है. तो अली को जो है जिसने पहचान लिया पढ़ लिया उसके लिए मज़हब की कोई कैद नहीं है. So I think it's really important that we step forward and we actually try to recognize that personality to the best of our abilities. Now, I think as a Shia youth, you must know that the first ever university in the Islamic history was the one established by Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam. And you know what he said to us? His message was very simple. I would like to see our Shia youth in 2 states. Either they are a knowledgeable person or scholars themselves, or in search of knowledge. That's so simple to be actually a Shia. तो इमाम की हमारे लिए जो instructions हैं, they are the ones that we should really excel. Our youth must excel in all aspects. Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam, as I said, he first organized the university in Masjid al-Nabawi. He had 4,500 students. And the subjects, that is really concept that is never explored. The subjects he taught was religion, philosophy, and sciences. And a brilliant student last night asked me a question about philosophy, right? What is the Shia stand on philosophy? And Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam said, the religious education is no different than sciences and philosophy. So our imams, even at that time, emphasized that the sciences, life sciences, are just as important as the religious education. The message was actually that there is no difference, and then he made mandatory Quran and Hadith. These are the mandatory subjects that you should learn. The first task force he developed was the data compilation, because there were so many wrong hadiths. They were floating in the market, you know, the market was corrupt, people were even rejecting the good hadith. He said, go and find out the actual hadith. So the only imam, you know, only time when we have gotten this, you know, screened hadith coming to us, they are actually first started by Imam Joffrey Sadiq. And then he taught science. He said science is evidence-based and experimentally driven with the end goal of answering certain specific questions. And then to your question, he mentioned the philosophy is no definitive answers. It is open-ended and it helps to develop social and emotional intelligence. That is really one of the still best definition that you will find in the literature. Then Imam also said together they will help develop spiritual intelligence. So when you think about intelligence, you have IQ. In our medical school, when students get to the medical school, we don't give them grades, GPA percentage, nothing. It's simple fail and pass. Because your IQ has already brought you that level. From here onward, it's your social and emotional intelligence. And only then you acquire the status of spiritual intelligence. This is what Imams have said, that how important it is to actually acquire the knowledge so you could reach that ladder where spiritual intelligence. यही वजह थी मौला कायनात ने कहा था कि अगर सब पर्दे भी हट जाएं तो मेरे यकीन में ज़रा बराबर भी फर्क नहीं आए. Right? So this is something that is really, together they will help develop spiritual intelligence and self-recognition. And that recognition, through self-recognition, we begin to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is really, again, individualistic from that, and Allah who's all-knowing and then the creator of the universe. So this is something that's really important for us. And then, you know, the charter of that university was, the mission was worship no one but Allah, as per the teachings of Quran and Prophet, peace be upon him, and Masumeen. Then his mission was service to humanity, and the vision was all worship, our actions and codes of civil conduct ought to be based on knowledge, ilm alone, and without it nothing matters. So knowledge was really the fundamental in those aspects that we really need to have the knowledge. Okay. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam also said that his school of religious education, he considered science and literature as two of the most important components of system of religious education. He also believed that they were essential for raising the status of human beings and making them into good citizen of the world, good citizen of the universe. It was his firm conviction that in an educated society, there is respect for rights of others and mutual cooperation and trust among the members. So to live in a society, we need to be, for example, you live in the United States, you must do everything in your capacity to make this country the greatest country that it can be. वतन से मोहब्बत जुज़्व ईमान है, ये हमारे भी इन्हीं मज़हब का भी एक हिस्सा है. So you should do everything. You know, you don't have to simulate completely where you give up your codes of conduct and your own personality, but do everything to make this country the greatest country that it can be. This is your civic duty and responsibility to live with others in peace and in harmony and to support the collective good of the country. So we are also known as Joffrey. So what is the Joffrey school of thoughts? Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam believed that the system of education had 4 important subjects. And I have really gathered all of this information from Spain, where I wrote them, through governmental affairs. And I was given 5 manuscripts that were written by Jabir bin Hayyan. And every manuscript that he wrote, he said, Mere Aqā Maula Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam ne farmaya. I was really trembling when I read his papers, and the language that he used, I spent months translating, and I published a paper on this. And that paper is actually on Google as well, and I will urge all of you to go and through him get to know your Imam alayhi salam. So this is something that's really, really important. And his language was, again, he emulated ya bhai jo Maula ki jo buland sata ki guftagoo thi, to ye jo gibberish ka lafz hai, ya jibber jabber, they actually have derived from Jabir bin Hayyan, because they could not figure him out. So when I read his subjects, he said that Imam gave really theology, science, literature, and irfan was essential for the strength of survival of Islam. He said, go and take those subjects and study them to the best. And then he said that which he deemed to be more enduring and lasting than any other structure of steel. So this is directly from Imam's ahadith and his discussion with his students as well. So Imam also said that the knowledge, he defined knowledge as follows, that whatever a man or a woman learns is knowledge. When asked if one kind of knowledge was more important than the other, he said, we cannot give preference to any kind of knowledge. They are all important, but they are timely dependent. So it depends on what the really needs of the world is, that you see a problem, the coronavirus came, the world came together, and they solved that problem. And Imam said that you need to be really nimble in your aspects, where you actually modulate and modify as per the time. And he said at that time medicine was important, and then he said that this may change as the time changes as well. So Imams did not make us really rigid that you have to, you must, you only this thing you do. It's a flexibility, you solve the real world problem, and that's what the teachings of our Masumin has been. Okay. So, So, now that I have fulfilled my duty towards the actual my Lord, जो मेरा रिस्क जहाँ से आता है, चाहे वो रिस्क मवद्दत हो, चाहे वो रिस्क हो, आपने बड़ी खूबसूरती से जो कल बात कही थी कि जो मौला का नौकर हो, मैं तो आपका भी नौकर हूँ. तो आप जैसे मोमिनीन जो मौला का जिक्र करते हैं, मैं आपका भी नौकर हूँ, वहाँ तक तो मेरी पहुँच ही नहीं है. लेकिन जो हक़ ज़हरा है वो मासूमीन है, वो अदा करना है. I know it's sometimes difficult. People think it's kind of not that cool, but I will show you cool stuff too. But it has to come through the same door, right? I can tell you now something really important in your life, and if you stayed awake, this will be a really important take-home message for you, okay? If you don't study and work for the love of knowledge or work, but only for money, it is highly unlikely that you will make any money nor find any fun in your life, okay? तालीम को ज़रिया इल्म तालीम को ज़रिया माश न बनाएं. Right? I am not the fellow of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons. I am, a fake doctor. I'm not a real medical doctor, but I am among the only 2 people in the world who have been given fellowship of the Royal Society of Surgeons and Physicians from Great Britain. The first one is Prince Charles, and he's the one who inducted me, right? And yeah. And he said to me that I think we are the only 2 phony one, pete. And that's really true in that sense. So हमने कभी तालीम को, the education was never really based to make money. And I think I would say that Jesus Christ never went to medical school. He did not have a PhD or MD, but he had passion and compassion. Right? So that is important. Medicine and medication is for patient and people, not for profit. Profit will come. But you should not make it the purpose of your life is really not to make money. And I can tell you, you will not have fun in life either, okay? Do each thing as if you did nothing else. So when you focus on your career, put everything that you've got. You can choose your career as per your liking, but then prove to your parents, you know, your parents has suffered and done so much sacrifice for you. It is time to pay back. And the best way you can pay back is to make them proud. And the way you can actually make them proud is by if you commit. And then, you know, we brown parents, we are quite crafty, okay? We manipulate you mentally, and you don't know this. But we say, you know, my dad used to say, अगर अच्छी नौकरी ना हो तो बीवी भी इज्जत नहीं करती है. Oh, ठीक है, जो मर्जी करो. But you know, at the end, what actually happens is we try to put our thoughts in our children's mind day in and day out. And as a result, what happens is that I always give the examples that if you like gulab, you know, gulab jamun or jalebi, you don't take it when you go fishing. You take what fish likes, otherwise you catch cold and no fish. You can sit there all day with the jalebi hanging and none of the fish is going to bite. So the important thing for parents is to really realize what the potential a child holds. And if a child commits to that area, tell them, I would like to see you the best person in the field. No one can match your expertise and your strength. So do each thing as if you do nothing, and if you wish to make your dreams come true is to wake up. Really wake up to the realities. But I know for parents, the really issue is that I always tell students that you can go from good to great in the area that you're good at. But mashallah, these kids are good at too many things. So the choice eventually causes a paralysis. When we were young, we will go and we will see a jeans, we'll buy it, we are happy, but now you go, it's 402, 405, 506, 507, stretch, no stretch. You know, sanded, the most ripped one is the most expensive one, which I don't get. You know, हम जो कपड़े फेंक देते थे वो ये अब लंडे में से ये निकाल के ले आते हैं. So, you know, the choice causes paralysis. You pick up one, you come home, you say, oh, I wish I had gotten the other one. That would have been really better. So for these children, because they have too many choices, these choices cause paralysis for them. So ask yourself a question. You know, you can go from good to great, but what it is that you're good at, and then you say, I'm good at too many things. Then ask yourself a question, what makes you come alive? What it is that you're most passionate about? What it is that excites you most? And then go and do this. I think this is something really important. You have to couple your strengths with your passion, otherwise you will not really enjoy your life in the longer run. So wake up to that call. So what does it really take to succeed? What really helped me do well? They are the same things that got me in trouble when I was young. When I was about his age, I used to have a cuddly toy. Not very many kids would have an electronic toy. And I will press the button, the dog will hop around, and all the other kids will come when, you know, I was growing up, and they will watch and they will be amazed that I have that dog. And one day my mother caught me. I had opened it up and she said, "Ye tumne kya kiya?" I said, "Mom, I fix it." And she said, "How can you fix it? You don't know anything about electronics." And I said, "Somebody put it together in the first place." How hard it is to actually put it together. So of course my older brother yelled from his room, "Somebody gonna get hurt real bad." And I knew that was me, right? So those are the kinds of things that got me in trouble. They actually encouraged me to get in more trouble because I enjoyed that very much. And I remember growing up in Rizvia society, we used to go to Hawke's Bay and the family, everybody's playing cricket. And I will go and watch these little crabs. And these crabs will be trapped in Hawke's Bay, you know, where the tide was high, and they will be sitting. And I used to see one guy, he's not that big, but if you approached him, he will come like this. He said, "You want to fight? You want to fight?" And it will do it to all the other smaller crabs as well. So I said, "What's wrong with him? Why is this attitude?" And my mother always used to say, "Mera khoon khol raha hai." So, "Oh, maybe something in his blood." So I said, "How can I get his blood? He's quite vicious, he's going to actually bite me." So I stole the cricket glove from my brother. I stole the nail polish from my sister. And I got the syringe from my mamu, my uncle, who used to inject himself with insulin. I went after that guy. I caught him, and on his back I wrote KK, King Kong, with nail polish. I knew the nail polish won't come off. Then I got another little fellow, and on his back I also wrote something else on his back with nail polish. Went for lunch, I came back, I saw this little fellow now come up to the big guy. He says, "You want to take it out?" Right? Just by injecting blood from one to another. I took the blood from the big guy, injected into the small one, and I watched what happens. This little one went up to the big one and said, "You want to take it out? You want to fight?" I won't tell you what happened to it because they're young kids. But that made me realize that actually, you know, what I was thinking in his blood was actually true. So in the end, first year of university, I sequenced that peptide. It was called King Kong peptides, and I was on the Dawn magazines and all the newspapers. So these are the things that actually got me in trouble. These are the things actually, they encouraged me to even do more. So what helped me, you know, do well was the things that got me in trouble when I was young. I was fearless. I wasn't worried as to what the consequences might be. The ability to take on well-calculated risks without fear. It doesn't mean that you just go and start crabbing or tackling a bear or, you know, or a grizzly bear or something else, but make sure that you take those chances that are really well calculated. And the ability to face that risk without panic and then persevere regardless of what happens. Stay persistent at it. When I came to England, I actually had no money in my pocket even to pay fees. I took one-way ticket, and everybody said, "How are you going to survive?" I said, "Ufawwiz amri ilallah, inna Allaha basirun bil ibad." That's it. I'll do my part. And alhamdulillah, within 1 week, I got 5-6 scholarships from the university, even though I came from Karachi, where people won't get very many scholarships. So I think that courage, the ability to take that well-calculated risk is really worth it. So your goals should be really clear enough to be kept in focus. So, you know, when you're deciding your careers, you need to make sure that you have your goals that are close enough. They're also helpful enough to change the lives. So if you can put smile on someone's face, someone can breathe easily because of you, and some elderly can actually walk because of your technology, you have served the purpose of your creation. So the purpose of creation is actually to live the life that has a particular purpose. So if you cannot write your ideas on the back of any business cards, you don't have a clear idea. So it's really important now for younger kids to articulate your ideas, your thoughts as to what I really want to do. Creativity requires a willingness to look stupid. And remember, as I said earlier, hope is never a good strategy. That hope everything will work out and things will be fine, that's not a good strategy. You have to have a plan to execute. Now, things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. You should really choose and pick the areas that you find are really important to you, because they will not only change your own life, but you can then change the lives of other people as well. So key to our collective success, these are my last few slides, then I'll show you my own research as well. We must choose people whose greatest desire is the success of ideas. So, you know, we cannot conquer the world on our own. We need to work as a team. We need to pick work in the team. And you know, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are actually in the wrong room. You need to really make sure that you surround yourself with smarter people, okay? And this is something that's really, really important, that hang around. And you know, you are an average of 5 children that you hang out with. You are the average of 5 people. If the beauty of our religious society was that somebody was good in poetry, somebody was good in philosophy, somebody was good in religious studies, somebody was good in... And what happens that when we grew up, we actually became the average. And you can ask us about poetry, you can ask about literature or anything else. I think this is something that's really important, is surround yourself with people who are better than you. And not just because you are good at certain things. So also think about the greatest desire is the success of ideas, not individual success. So, you need to really make sure that the ideas are very important, and people who will add value to another's thoughts. Bring in people, respect their opinions and the diversity of opinion, and bring them together. And people also who can handle, change emotionally very quickly. You decided that this is what is changed now, coronavirus has come, we have to prepare. Some people will say, no, we have to do things the way we have done. This is what Abu Jahl used to say all the time, how could I give up the religion of my forefathers? So, adapt the change, and who appreciate the strength of others in the area where they are weak. Unfortunately, we don't. We condone those people who we think they are really useless. Each and every person has their unique strengths. No two thumbprints are identical. No two irises are identical. We all bring our collective strengths, put it together. The snowflakes are the most soft and delicate thing on the planet. You put it together, it becomes an avalanche. This is something that we really need to do, is to put ourselves together and create that avalanche. So people who place, what is best for the team before themselves. So it's really important that the success of the team is more important, and who can also bring the best thinking in people around them, and also possess maturity, experience, and success in the issues under discussion, and they will take the ownership. Azadari Sayyidatul Shuhada, and our community collective spirit, our youth have to take the ownership. Nobody washes a rental car. Nobody does. If you don't have the ownership, people will come, attend, and they leave. They don't have a sense of belonging. So actually having sense of belonging to Dar-E Abbas in your center is really, really critical. And then ask yourself how you can really pay back to the community. And people who will leave the table with we attitude, not me attitude. So I think it is also something important that our Masumeens have also taught us. Park your ego. Leave your ego, because your ego will infest the entire community and the entire society. So unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will not grow. The biggest mistake that we make in our lives is to think that we work for anybody but ourselves. Right? This is something that's really important. And the other thing is, it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. And also I think, our children need to lead in every aspect, and you need to understand what leadership really means. The management is doing the things right, whereas the leadership is doing the right thing. It's really important that you do the right thing if you really want to become the leader. Management is efficiency in climbing the ladder of success, whereas leadership determines which ladder, which wall the ladder should be placed against. So I think the community thinkers at the high level, they really have to think about, the key is not to prioritize what your schedule is, but to schedule your priorities. This is something that's really important. I won't bore you any more with these, I think, that become hard to digest, but you got the message. Also remember, the principles are really important and not just values. Criminals have their values. Don't sell drug in my neighborhood. That's a value. Let's stick to it, but it's not principally driven. The principles are like laws of nature. You pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other end of the stick as well. And if you jump from 10-story building, halfway through you can't change your mind because gravity takes over. So whatever our behavior and attitude is at the Imam Bargah, it should be reflective in our real life no matter where we go. Because those are the principles that we, our forefathers, our parents taught us, and our society, Zia Bhai and other seniors taught us. They stuck with us for the rest of our life because they were principles, not values. And these principles are, they don't change. The laws of nature don't change no matter where you go. You are in the United States or Pakistan or Middle East, your values, will change because as the border changes, but your principles should not change. So keep your mind open to change all the time. Welcome it, court it. It's only by examining and re-examining your opinions, or you will make a progress towards that way. Okay, so the last thing I would say, it's not enough to be industrious. Ants work very hard. They're all the time. But what it is that you're working for? So, just doing all of this repetitive work is not going to get you anywhere. So the door of opportunity does not have a remote control. So even if we open the door for younger generation, I can guarantee you, most of them won't have the courage to go through the door, right? So this is really important that you have the courage, and also remember that you have to open that door yourself through your own efforts. Language of victimization is the biggest victimizer. For you to say that I don't have control, हमारे पास resources नहीं है, हमारे पास लोग नहीं है, सब कुछ नहीं है, that will disempower us collectively. So the language of victimization, blaming the government, resources, is absolutely disempowering. We should consider, take those into account, but language of victimization is the biggest victimizer. Don't blame your circumstances, fortune or luck. Say, I don't have a good job, or I have to work in the evenings. Don't use that language of victimization, because it disempowers you and takes your ability away. I had never even boiled an egg when I came to England, and first time I made rice, I looked at it and said, ये तो हम वो लेटी बनाते थे जिससे पोस्टर चिपकाते थे. How I'm going to eat this? So I called my mom and says, Mom, how do you make rice? And if it turns out this way, how you eat it? She started crying. My baby, I told you, you should not have gone. So I think language of victimization is really, it disempowers you. A ship may look really nice when it's docked at a harbor, but that's not what the ship is for, right? So don't take this luxury, and the parents that have worked for you, you have nice house, nice car, everything else, but that's not what you are made for. The ship is not made for this. The ship is actually made to go and tackle these high waves, struggle and get through it. And if your ship doesn't come to you, swim out to your ship. Get out to your career and the career goals that you want to really achieve. Okay. So don't wish things were easier. Always say that I wish I was tougher. I think this is something that's really, really important takeaway. A quitter never wins and a winner never quits. That's what Napoleon said some time ago, okay? To begin with end in mind, start with a clear understanding of your destination. What would it look like when I get there finally? So when I take on a career, what would it really look like? How would I fit into that career once I am at that level? Planning is the foundation of your life, and acting prudently on the basis of intellect. This is what Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam has also said. And then remember that there are parts of the ship, when you take them one by one, you throw a nut, bolt, or an engine into the water, it will all sink. You put it together, it floats, right? So put your thoughts and the ideas together. No enemy, Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam said, no enemy is more powerful than ignorance. हमारी अपनी जहालत सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन है. ना यहूदी हमारे दुश्मन हैं, ना ईसाई हमारे दुश्मन हैं. Our own ignorance is the biggest enemy within. So we need to really handle and tackle that. Most people, spend more time planning their summer holidays than they plan their lives and their careers. We all do this. A person who knows how may always have a job, but the person who asks the question why will always be his boss. It's just something that's really, really important. If you don't ask the question, why am I doing something that I'm doing? People will say, why are you the leader of this community? Ask the question why, because what anyone can do, how to do things, but the great leaders in the community will always ask the question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Also remember that the good ideas, they never go out to find someone. Be impossible to ignore. So when you're in your classroom, make your presence felt by asking questions, like we will do today shortly. Asking questions, make your presence felt. Imam Ali ne bhi yahi kaha tha ki bolo taaki tum pehchane jao. So be recognized, speak up. And you don't find mentors, mentor find you, increase your visibility and be found. In the audience, my eyes are on some students. I will search them out. It's not that you have to approach me or find me, I will find you. This is what the scouts do when they come to a hockey game or a basketball game. They're looking for picking up, the members for their team. People who play safe all the time will never succeed. Long-term planning is a wonderful thing, but should keep your eyes on the next 90 days and you'll not go wrong. So make sure when you plan your careers, make sure that you have things on your radar. Success creates also a false sense of security. And we know that some people in some nations, communities, they think they are the most successful. You watch how they actually get soon wiped out, because they are really not constantly thinking and the eyes on the radar. Okay. All right, last slide on this one. For those of you who are really looking for jobs and careers, something that's really important, 80% of anything is showing up. 80% of anything is showing up. When you see a job, write down your resume. Show up for that class, show up for that interview, show up for that attendance and presence, because you don't know what will happen. 100% of the shots that Wayne Gretzky said, you will not score. If you don't shoot, you're not going to score. Be that in the academia or technical qualification is prerequisite, but you must learn to sell yourself. You can make the best card, but if your sales department is no good, you're not going to sell very many. So it's important that you actually make yourself sellable and prepare yourself. Do your homework. Write the letters. This year, alhamdulillah, we helped our Shia 35 to 37 young youth who have now come to United States and Canada to do their PhD. We actually use this philosophy and help them write the letters and prepare their resumes that the supervisor couldn't ignore them. And they are all here already doing their PhD, fully paid scholarship. The other important thing is to prepare for your interview, what value you add to the company and an organization, what it is that you bring to the table. They don't care you are from Karachi, Kathmandu, or Harvard or Stanford. They are not hiring your past, they're actually hiring the future of the company. So make sure that you tell them that you have done your homework, and this is what you can actually add the values. That really ends. I will take you now into the future. Now that you are prepared, where lies the most opportunities for education, research, and healthcare innovation, startups, and business in the healthcare systems, where the world is heading. So this is something that you really need to prepare yourself. This is where we are heading, in that direction. So, the tsunami is already here. How can you prepare yourselves to move forward? This is what your future doctor is going to look like. Scary, right? But this is your future doctor. Okay, next one. The future of medicine and healthcare is, even in our hospital, we were the first team, our group was the first team to develop the intraoperative MRI, whereby normally a surgeon will do an MRI for the brain tumor. When the image is really projected, surgeon designed the surgery, and then they go in, but the situation is very different inside the brain. It looks very different. So the idea was that could we send the patient inside the magnet and we take the live image and then perform surgery, remove that tumor. But the problem was that you could not take any metal inside the magnet. So how do you do this? We actually designed titanium robot. It's the neuro arm in the space station. You see the actual Canada arm. That is based on the technology that we had developed. It's called neuro arm. So this robot goes inside, the surgeon sits in a different room on the big screen, the entire MRI image is projected, and the surgeon then performs the surgery with exquisite accuracy. तो नैयर की जो हमने सर्जरी करवाई थी साहब भाई माशाल्लाह doctors कोई no other doctor will attend to it. We had our surgeons operate on him and they took out 99% of his tumor. And he, mashallah, he said to me that, I have 2 months, that's what doctors have said to me, but I want to go for ziyarat of Imam Hussain. And I said, you will go at least half a dozen times. And he, mashallah, did, and the tumor that normally would have killed him within 2 months. Okay. So precision health, the healthcare system is really becoming a one-stop shop. Those days are gone where you could teach, make doctors and create them, specialists. Those days are gone. Each and every person needs to be really a specialist in every single discipline, because the entire universe is coming to your handheld device, and then a nurse will have access to every aspect, from the healthcare to medicine to actually visualizing and doing all the other things. So the world is really changing quite significantly. We are also developing, go back, these biosensors whereby we can actually, this sensor is not able to take your vital signs, your blood pressure, and but also reminds you of your medication. If elderly person falls down, this will send us signals to us that the person has either, fallen or is injured, or their pulse is actually dropped. So you could have these little stamps that are pasted, and we are already doing this in our patients as well. And then we are also creating, this is a technology also developed in our center, where you can have these capsules. You ingest this capsule, the capsule goes inside your body, entire your GI tract, and it will track any small little polyps or any abnormalities, and also collect your microbiome from your gut. And then it will send a surgeon signal to the doctor saying that I see this big polyp, do you want to take it out or should I take it out? And it actually is equipped with laser, it will burn this, and that's done, right? The surgery is done. The other important technology is the immunotherapies, where you're using your own body's immune system to be able to attack cancers and destroy them. So you can actually destroy these cancers, tumors, by using your own immune system. The other important thing is we're using these nanoparticles and nanomedicine, whereby these little particles are equipped to recognize a particular cancer or tumor, and they go and attach to this and selectively deliver drugs to destroy this without your liver being compromised for any of those effects. So very sophisticated, and these are the nanoparticles that are now actually being used to tackle any major body ailments. Also, if we have a pregnant mother, we can actually take the blood sample from that mother, and we can predict and determine whether the baby that is yet to be born will have any genetic abnormalities. So we will know the defect in the baby that is still in very early stages of gestation. So what do? We can actually then do, okay, go ahead. We can do the CRISPR-9 technology, where we can go and snip that particular defective gene, cut it out, and then insert the healthy gene back in. So that when the baby is actually born, baby will not have Down syndrome or any other diseases that are otherwise really horrible and terrible. You know that, the digital and telehealth, 5G has made life so much easier. The things that you could not imagine, they are now can be actually done. So it's really important for our children to get into this, technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, because this is where the future really is going to go. From anything from driving cars, and I will show you, and the flying the aircrafts or drone, which I will show you today that we are doing in my lab as well. So. Then the quantum and cloud computing, people who are interested in computer sciences, this has really provided an enormous tool, because the things that a human brain could take thousands of years, this quantum computing can actually do it in seconds and minutes. So you will be able to do things that we thought were not possible in the present time. Also, remote diagnostics and surgery. So surgeons sitting in Calgary can actually operate on a patient in Atlanta. So, and these are the hybrid operating rooms that are being developed, where a surgeon is assisted by other people, and they will tell them exactly where they're putting the catheter in the heart of that patient, and then the heart is dangling right in front of them. Again, I said hybrid operating room, where machines are working together with humans to be able to really operate on patients. Okay, next. 3D printing is also something really very important, because now we are 3D printing precision health or personalized bones and joints. And then the tissue and the cartilages that could be designed for an individual, which is more precision health and personalized. Normally you will have to otherwise get a tool that, sometimes one leg is shorter than the other, but now you can actually design these bones and also different tissues that could be, and you will see soon hearts and kidneys and lungs also being actually designed through 3D printing. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, you know that Google uncle knows about you more than you know about yourself. And I just talked about these technologies. If I pick up my phone, all of these technologies will be actually displayed. So you are being watched, okay? And Google will soon become almighty, all-knowing. So the question often is asked, what happened to your faith then when the Google actually becomes almighty and all-knowing, okay? Virtual reality is something that's also really important. Many of the diseases that you have for people who have been suffering post-traumatic stress disorder, the virtual reality techniques and approaches to actually reprogram their mind so they can get over that depression that they have had for years. Okay. Now look, so these are little fellows in our hospitals already running around during COVID time, where nurse won't have to go in the hospital. And they can go and take all the vitals, deliver all the food and the drugs and medicine. These guys are already on ground, running and doing things for us, okay? All right, beta. Now, I bring you to my own research, neuroscience of brains. We had a young girl. She was about 13 years of age. She was fine, happy, very happy girl. And then what happened one day, she got really sick. And parents thought she had cold and flu, gave her some Tylenol medication, but her situation started to worsen. So after 48 hours, they brought her to Children's Hospital. I was the scientific director at that time. Brought her to Children's Hospital, and immediately we realized that she was very, very sick. She was taken to intensive care. Within 24 hours, she passed away. So the parents were really heartbroken. And young child, whenever, goes in such a short time period, it really terrible. So I was given the task to do the autopsy and then see what was actually wrong with her. When I looked at the actual brain, the brain I thought was a biological tissue, right? It's just tissue. But the thoughts and the feelings and the beliefs that she had, when she was a little girl, she would get upset with her friends, main baat nahi karungi, kutti kar dungi, right? So she also had all the other aspects, tooth fairy is going to come, Santa Claus going to come, love for parents, what my future would be, what would I do, how would I will have my family, my children, everything else. That was not observable or measurable by any means. We could not determine it, we could not deduce it, we could not see it. So that really got us, how can we tap into brain to figure out what the thoughts, beliefs, our feelings are, and how can we really record the activity from brain, which is so complex. So when you think about brain, so here are some questions for these bright stars. How many brain cells do you think you have? 446? That's smarter. Tooth? Sorry? So they are actually more than the stars in the Milky Way. So tens of billions of brain cells, right? So you really have that many brain cells in your brain. So can you imagine that how could you really tap into brain's ability? So if you really want to figure out how brain works, you have to develop technology whereby you can record from large networks of brain cells. I, during my PhD, recorded from 12 brain cells, and I thought I walked on water. I only realized how dumb actually I was. 12 cells wasn't going to tell me how brain functions. So that really bothered me, and since then we worked really hard to develop technology that allows us to report from like large networks of brain cells. The other thing is, if your brain is damaged, either due to stroke, trauma, injury, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, that brain cell is done, is kaput. It will not be replaced. So the function can never be replaced. So there's nothing you could do in those instances where your brain cells die because that function is permanently gone. How do you regain that brain function? We thought we could perhaps develop a chip that will replace the damaged part of the brain, and we replace it, okay? So your brain, we know that is the fastest growing organ in the body. If a mother is really stressed, maternal stress or any affect, that will really affect the development of baby as well. So the stress hormones will impact the growth of the baby's brain. Brain is the fastest growing organ in the body. You can see as compared to really stomach, brain is growing at such a fast rate that it is incredible. So you can see how fast the brain actually grows as compared to other organs in proportion. So it's the fastest growing organ, and anything that will disrupt this brain development will actually take away the ability of a child to live a successful and a future life. So experiential blindness, so you think your brain is really smart. So I'm going to show you some images and I'll see how smart your brain is, okay? So this is now the interactive section. Experiential blindness is that we are not really born with built-in emotional brain circuits. Emotions are usually the sort of a guesswork. You think when you look at downtown Atlanta that you actually see every building? Actually, no. You don't see much. Your brain makes up that image for you. And it is the experiential blindness that you face, but there are no built-in circuits for it. Now, what do you guys think this is? Okay, what do you guys think?
Some people are going to say it's a black picture with white spots. Some people can say it's a white picture with black spots. Wow.
Anybody else? Yes. Okay, so somebody said black pattern of the brain. See, I just like Google, I convinced you to say things that I want you to say. But pay attention, this is experiential blindness. Our brain has not really seen this image before, right? So your brain will say, oh, this maybe look like, fish. That looks like a little whale on the top, right? But let me show you what this is, okay? All right. So now when you look at the patterns, right? You have, hold on, we'll bring it back. Look at it really carefully, right? You are no longer experientially blind to this image. Okay, let's go back. Not forward, go back. No, go back. Go back.
I see it.
No, hang on. So you spoiled my secret. So no tip for you, no soup for you. Now you can actually see that you're no longer experientially blind. Okay, let's move forward and we'll skip the other two. Okay, go forward. So the same thing is here, right? Your brain. You're smart. Okay, go. Let's move forward. Okay, go. So, how do you actually know about brain? Brains, has certain brain cells. We call them neurons. They're connected through special structures. They're like, I am talking to you. I'm the presynapse. I'm the cell that is speaking. You're getting this information. You're the postsynapse. And this microphone is the means of communication between two of us. That's how the brain cells actually communicate. Okay, let's move forward. Keep going. Now, stop there. This is really the brain of a child who's 4 years of age. We got this kid's brain MRI scanned, and this kid was raised by Taliban in a terrorist camp. This kid was chained to the pillar. He was beaten and tortured and not loved and actually, neglected completely. The extremely neglected child's brain will have the same size. This is the normal brain of a child the same age. This kid's brain is no different than a dog. If you ask him to bite, he bites. If you ask him to bark, he will bark. And if you ask him to blow up, this kid will blow himself up in the middle without any restrictions. So I think it's really important that we nurture our children with love, care, and affection, because these changes, you can see the huge gaps between the corpus callosum, the left and right side, they will never be filled up in this child that has been so severely neglected. So enrich your children with, यही मौला ने कहा है कि अपने नौजवानों को अपने आप को जो है वो रिफ्रेश करो नई अहादीस के साथ with new knowledge. Okay. So what we really wanted to do was to develop a chip. We needed to really figure out how brain cells interact and how brain cells really could be linked with. So what I'm going to actually do in the last few minutes is to be able to really show you what it is that we have done to connect human brain with a semiconductor chip, and how we can really harness the power of human brain in different ways. So these disruptive technologies, we call the disruptive technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, we believe they will really be transformative for years to come. And I'll take you to the last minute and I will shake you up a little bit. So here, your brain is actually very adaptive, very, very plastic. So what you're seeing here in this young individual, we've got a rubber hand. That rubber hand will be stroked, but he is not allowed to look at his own hand. His left hand, he cannot see his left hand. But he's only focusing on the rubber hand, but at the same time when the rubber hand is stroked, his own hand is stroked by a brush as well, okay? So everybody got it? All right, now watch what happens. No, hang on. Watch what happens.
Fake hands focusing on it, there's the real hands not focusing on it, simultaneous stroking. And there are various ways you can test it.
That scared me.
It scared you, right? So his brain actually thought that the rubber hand was his own hand, right? So when brain bought that, this is what we will do to connect artificial limbs with your own mind so you can actually control them yourselves, okay? Okay, you can watch it one more time.
Focusing on it, there's the real hands not focusing on it, simultaneous stroking. And there are various ways you can test it.
So this really is that we connect with these devices automatically. Okay, next one, please. Yeah. All right, go ahead. Jane. Go ahead. Okay, so this is something that we developed. This is a robotic monkey. And the monkey will do everything what Thomas is doing. And if Thomas blinks, winks, or moves his jaws, the monkey will actually copy all aspects of it. And then what we can do is he also thinks in his head to turn the red light on or the green light on, and he can turn the light on and off by just thinking about it. We bring in young students from Sunday school. We actually put these electrodes on their scalp, and they could do just about anything that this robotic monkey will do. We have them control this cube. This cube they can control up or down, push it down into the tunnel. And we use this approach for them to actually control a drone by just thinking about this once they're practiced. Okay, next one. And so you can see that this car is also driven just by thinking, mind control. There is no remote control. He is just even not looking at it, and you can see the car actually drives better than Google car. It doesn't crash either. Now let me show you something that's really cool, okay? Now here is a drone. know that we can fly by just thinking about it. So the drone has small little sensors, and these sensors are feeding information back to the electrodes that are mounted on the scalp and give them the navigational aspects, go up and down, and if they see any obstruction in the way, they will send a signal to the electrodes, and then we avoid that signal. So when we actually did this, I showed this in Pakistan, and they said, no big deal. हमारे पायलट बगैर लाइसेंस के जहाज उड़ाते हैं. So I felt so humble. I said, there I was trying to pretend and show them, you know, look, this is what we can do. They said, ये क्या हमारे यहाँ तो लाइसेंस के बगैर जहाज उड़ा लेते हैं और न्यूयॉर्क से जो है कराची में लैंड कर लेते हैं. So, you know, these are the things that you really should be thinking about in the future, is that the data that is used and the information that is used, how that is going to control, okay? Move forward. Okay, keep going. So we can now record from these brain cells in really large numbers, and we can record from thousands of these brain cells. I think somebody pulled the plug. Okay, guys, be careful, please. Yeah, too many helpers. I think signal is lost, maybe at the back. Okay, so we can actually record from a large networks of these brain cells, but this is still those brain cells that are dissociated from brain and grown on a culture dish. Okay, can you move forward, please? Okay, go ahead. Okay, one more. And then we can also take the isolated brain slice taken from brain, and then when we put it on the chip, we can record from these intact networks of brain cells that are in the actual isolated brain tissue. And usually from either epileptic patients or others, we can record the seizure-like activity. But these are still brain cells that are in contact with the chip. But brain is three-dimensional. So what happens to those brain cells that are not in contact with the chip? So we developed another technique which we call photoconductive stimulation. We grow these brain cells on silicon wafer. We label them with a dye, so when they are active, we can actually, they will fluoresce, and they fluoresce, we can monitor the activity. We fire the laser through the microscope, which changes the properties of the wafers, and these brain cells start to fire, okay? So the idea is that we can actually now monitor millions of brain cells at the same time, right? This is, I never thought I will live long enough to really see, because this was really a major milestone, because now we can move this technology forward, okay? Whereby we can implant these chips in, for example, this monkey has no arm, and if there is a prosthetic limb attached to it, monkey's visual cortex makes a contact with the food palate. That will talk to its in the sensory motor cortex. When the sensory motor cortex discharges, the chip picks up the activity. It actually becomes the remote control that can now control this prosthetic limb as if it is part of his own body, right? So you can think about linking brain and machine with this technology. Okay, you guys are going too fast. Okay, that's fine. So we wanted to really take it to the next level for humans, this technology, which is now actually being clinically trialed. So a child who has seizures, the issue there is that sometimes the surgeon doesn't really know where the seizures are coming from. So what happens in that case is that they will plant these electrodes. The child has a 30-foot cable. They stay in the hospital for 10 days and they try to figure out which area of the brain is that the actual seizures are coming from. This is really cumbersome. This is also very expensive. So we have developed a chip which is 100 times more sensitive than these electrodes. We made it MR compatible, and we also made it completely wireless. So when the chip is planted, okay, when the chip is planted inside the brain, okay, keep going. We can plant the chip and it sits outside, okay? And we bring this wireless device outside the skull. We suture it back, pull it out of the scalp, and then we can actually pick up every single seizure that this child has. But the child is at home, And every time it sees this, it will create a 3D image of the brain and tell surgeon exactly where the seizures are coming from. Surgeon can actually go in and only take out that part, but not the normal part. Normally you end up losing a lot of function of the brain because surgeon just uses the guesswork to take this out. So this is where we are doing clinical trials right now, okay? Now I'm going to show you something that the world is actually changing. The things are going to change. And now this part is scary, so you can close your eyes if you don't want to watch. Okay, go ahead.
Is not impacted by the accident. If you wish to scan your brain for digitization and upload, you have approximately 5 minutes.
Do it! Now imagine the power you wield when you can order a digital copy of your daughter's brain. And do you know what comes next?
Hi, Dad.
One day delivered to your doorstep is an artificially intelligent android that will act, look, emote, just like your daughter. Every memory from birth on will remain intact, but she'll also be a walking computer with access to all the world's knowledge. This is what your world will look like. This is the future of artificial intelligence. It's the deep future. Your body, gone. You're all computer, all the time.
This is my last slide. And this is our Canadian robot.
Hello there. May I ask your name?
Hi there, my name is Ignacio.
It's nice to meet you, Ignacio. So, what country are you from?
I'm from Canada.
It's pretty cold there, eh?
Meet Erica the android. She or it, depending on who you ask, is one of the most sophisticated humanoids ever designed. And she's giving us a glimpse of what a year-million AI might look like.
Modern computers are adding machine. They add very fast, giving the illusion that they're thinking.
Boy, heard you. Scary.
So this really is the future. Yeah. If we reach the point of singularity, what will happen to the world, right? Where we have these machines that are actually outsmart us anytime. And you thought that the things that were science fiction is here. It's just only a matter of time that when we actually become replaced by what we have designed ourselves. You know, if a super AI gets access to the information processing capabilities of our limbic system, you can actually design these robots to have feelings like humans. They will feel just like us, love, hate, affection, everything else. This is what the future would look like, so thank you very much.
Is it going to look like that or
It's already looking, parts of it already looking. I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. Sure. Sure. Any questions?
Like the future, you said that the future is going to be replacing people into machines.
Correct.
So what is basically our belief about that we gonna be raised up from our graves at the end of the day?
That's a great question, but you know, Maulana knows better than I do. Allah also says that, Ya ayyuhal insan, if you don't behave, you shall be replaced. And I wonder that replacement will be our own creation. Who knows? Right? So we will be dead, but we will resurrect as humans. But these machines that we are designing, they are actually far more smarter than us, and they will be able to replace and do things that we cannot do as humans. Scary. Google is already, you know, knows more about me than I know about myself. Yes, beta. Great question. So, you know, in terms of affordability, when I was young, I bought my Mac computer 2CI. You know how much I paid for it? $13,000. Right? And you know what the memory was? 2 megabyte. Now, during our tabarruk, we give away 8 megabyte USBs. So whenever the technology comes in the beginning, it is always expensive. So a single chip, if you were to ask me the cost, it is $300, right? And then surgeon's time and that you implant it. But you know, you can think about a child who is completely incapacitated because of the seizures, and then the drugs that really are given to them, they also take away their life for them. And the surgeon ends up taking away that part of the brain, which is a guesswork. You know, just like lightning, you don't know where the lightning is going to strike. So you will make a guess, and the surgeons often make a guess, and then the kid is, after surgery, is incapacitated and they lose that function. So what we are doing right now is that we take our second chip that we developed, it's a patch clamp chip. We take that chip inside the OR, as the surgeon takes out that part of the brain, we put it on our chip, and then we can record spontaneously occurring seizures. We do then mid-throughput drug screening. We find the best drug combination that blocks the seizure, because fast forward 5 years post-surgery, the child seizures will always return in 80% of the cases. So now what we could do is we can actually tell the doctors that if the seizures return, this is the best drug that will block the seizures in that particular child, because they're triggered by a specific ion channel species. So I think, you know, slowly and gradually when the technology comes, it's always expensive, but you know, if I see a smile on a child's face, it's worth the world for me. I don't really care about money. As a society, my job is to make sure that child lives the fullest life to the fullest capacity. Yes?
शरीक से करीब है अल्लाह जो है हर चीज़ पे कादिर है वो हमें देख रहा है पर अब जो आजकल टेक्नोलॉजी जो आ गई है जो जिस पे आप न्यूरो चिप और बेसिकली न्यूरल रिंग्स जो इलॉन मस्क इस पे काम कर रहा है कि वो बेसिकली वो भी चिप जो ब्रेन से कनेक्ट करे और बेसिकली वो जो आपका दिमाग सोच है वो डेटाबेस आपके कंप्यूटर में आए तो बेसिकली टेक्नोलॉजी जो है वो भी आपकी बेसिकली आप जो सोच रहे हैं वो भी जो शहर से ज़्यादा आपके करीब आ गई जो आप सोच रहे हैं वो भी आपके पास टेक्नोलॉजी में आ रहा है फिर आप कहते हैं कि अल्लाह हमें देख रहे हैं फिर अब ये मोबाइल एक टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई है कि आप यहाँ से जो भी हम एक्टिविटी कर रहे हैं मोबाइल के थ्रू सब कुछ नजर आ रहा है बेसिकली सैटेलाइट बता रही है फिर हम कहते हैं कि अल्लाह हर चीज़ पे कादिर है कि मौसम का बदलना अब वो भी टेक्नोलॉजी के आप थ्रू आप किसी भी तरह बारिश कहीं भी आप करवा सकते हैं आप किसी भी तरह ग्रो कर आप कहीं भी क्रॉप से हम ग्रो कर सकते हैं तो अब जो आने वाली जनरेशन जो है उसमें फिर हम किस तरह जिस बच्चे को सिर्फ शुरू से ही बताया जा रहा है कि आपका जो खुदा है वो शहर से ज़्यादा करीब है और सिर्फ तीन जब आप बेस बनाते हैं खुदा के लिए तो हम यहाँ से फिर किस तरह खुदा की वैदानियत को बताएं, किस तरह से आप आगे वाली जनरेशन को बताएं, क्योंकि अब आने वाली जनरेशन तो फिर टेक्नोलॉजी क्रॉस खुदा का मानेगी ना।
जी, आपने बहुत अच्छा सवाल किया और ये सवाल आमतौर पे होते नहीं, हमारे यहाँ डिस्कस भी नहीं होते। लेकिन देखिए कुरान में मैंने जैसे कल कहा था कि साइंस को तलाश मत करें, कुरान में साइंस तलाश करें, क्योंकि साइंस भी इन साइंस की मोहताज है। हज़रत ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम की खिलकत ह्यूमन क्लोनिंग का पहला एक्सपेरिमेंट था। और हज़रत इब्राहीम अलैहिस्सलाम ने पूछा अल्लाह से कि कैसे ज़िंदा करेगा, तो अल्लाह ने कहा है तुम्हें यकीन नहीं है? कहा है, लेकिन इत्मीनान क़ल्ब के लिए कहा कि परिंदों को लो, इनके टुकड़े करो, इनको कीमा अपने मानूस करो, इनका कीमा बनाओ, इनको पहाड़ों पे फैला दो, इनको बुलाओ तो तुम वापस आ जाएंगे। तो हर नबी को अल्लाह ने अमर दिया, लेकिन ख़त्मी मर्तबा सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की ज़ात थी कि जिनको अमर कुल दे दिया, और यही अमर कुल जो है मौला कायनात को दिया। तो जिसकी वजह से वो कादिर हैं अल्लाह की उन तमाम यानी जो अल्लाह की जिसको आप कह रहे हैं शहरक से भी करीब है। देखिए करीब तो वो बिल्कुल है, लेकिन वो इंसान को अगर अशरफुल मखलूक़ात बनाया है तो उसमें अपनी कुदरत की सलाहियतें बहुत सी वदियत की हैं, वरना तो वो इंसान बनाने का मकसद ही क्या था। तो उनको जब अक्ल दे दी, उनको शऊर दे दिया, तो दे कैन एक्चुअली क्रिएट दोज थिंग्स बट दे कैन नॉट क्रिएट देमसेल्व्स एज सच। तो जो ये चीज़ें बनाते हैं रोबोटिक्स एंड गूगल नोज अबाउट योरसेल्फ, बट गूगल कैन ऑल्सो पुट रॉन्ग इन्फॉर्मेशन। अब देखिए जो फोर्थ जो वेव थी कोविड की, और जो कोविड के नए वेरिएंट से वो सारे के सारे भूल गए। अब ये किसके पीछे लग गए हैं? पुतिन के पीछे। वो एक नई इन्होंने बीमारी शुरू कर दी। सो दे हैव एक्चुअली फॉरगॉटन। सो दोज मीडिया is actually can be manipulative as well as destructive as well. लेकिन ये कि अल्लाह ने आपको जब अल्लाह ने कहा कि मैं छुपा हुआ ख़जाना था, मैंने कहा कि मैं तलाशा जाऊं, तो जो अल्लाह की सिफ़ात जो है कोई इंतहा नहीं है, तो उसने इंसान के साथ ये इंसाफ न किया होता अगर उसको वो सलाहियतें न दी होती जो उसके औसाफ की पहचान करा सकें। राइट, सो एट द एंड ही हैज़ गिवन यू, मौला कायनात ने कहा था कि तू अपने आप को एक जज़्द खाकी समझता है, दर हकीकत तेरे अंदर पूरी कायनात पोशीदा है। So you actually have the ability within you to be able to create anything. So कुरान में भी है कि जिसके पास कुरान का इल्म है तो वो मुर्दों को भी ज़िंदा कर सकता है, वो टाइम ट्रैवल भी कर सकता है, और वो पहाड़ों को अपनी जगह से हटा भी सकता है। तो मासूमीन ने तो ज़िंदा भी किया है, और उसके अलावा जो है मासूमीन ने जो है वो टाइम ट्रैवल भी किया है। मौला कायनात ने खैबर में पहुँचे थे तो टाइम ट्रैवल भी किया, लेकिन पहाड़ों को हिलाने का कहीं मामला नज़र नहीं आता। लेकिन जब आप आए मुबाहिले के लिए तो उनके पादरी ने कहा था कि इनके साथ मुबाहिला मत करना, मैं ऐसे चेहरे देख रहा हूँ जो इशारा करेंगे तो पहाड़ अपनी जगह से हट जाएंगे। तो ये सारे के सारे एट्रीब्यूट्स हैं ह्यूमंस को अल्लाह ने दिए हैं। अगर अशरफुल मखलूक़ात बनाया है तो आप जो नोन से जो है आप अननोन का पता लगाना, ये आपके एट्रीब्यूट्स में है। तो देयर इज़ नो लिमिट, इट डजंट सरप्राइज मी एट ऑल। तो लेकिन यह कि वो मालिक के कुल वही है, कुदरत कुल वही है, वो वही साहिब इख्तियार है, उसी की अक्ल की बुनियाद पे ही हम ये नई नई तहकीकात करते हैं। बट यू नो चाहे वो शहरक से करीब हो, आप किसी चीज़ को इतना करीब लाएं तो आप उसको पढ़ नहीं सकते, उसको दूर ले जाएं तो आप उसको देख नहीं सकते। बट the idea is that you always have that inspiration around your jugular vein that supplies blood to your brain to think. वो बच्ची पीछे बहुत देर से
Why does the future have to have robots?
Great question. Why does the future have to have robots? You know, the idea is that the things that will take me 1,000 years to do, a robot can actually do it much more effectively within minutes, right? So you know the story about Facebook. Facebook had these robots that were working together as a machine learning. The machine learning algorithms allow a machine learn just like we learn from each other. Machine learns from each other. And then the machines were talking and it said, C-U-T cut, B-U-T but, P-U-T should be put and not put. They changed that algorithms, and when they changed, every language in the computer was changed, and the Facebook people could not recognize what the robots were saying. They pulled the plug on the robots. So really the reason is that if this was not for robots, our life will be very, very difficult. You wouldn't be landing on moon, you wouldn't be driving your car because car is a half robot, and you wouldn't be making even your coffee because that machine is a robot as well. Everything that you're doing these days, from MRI machine to X-ray machine, these are all robots. They're there to help us and nothing else. So you shouldn't be scared of them. Go ahead.
Will these robots make us a better Muslim?
Sorry?
Will these robots make us better Muslims?
Make you better Muslim? You're actually smarter than these robots. They want you better Muslims, but as a Muslim you will make better robots. Right? Sure.
For the past few days, I've been thinking about and pondering about free will a whole lot. So I just wanted to ask if neuroscience plays anything in human free will.
You need a separate session for that. So I think, somebody asked Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam the same question. Imam said to him, lift your one leg, and he did lift it. Then Imam said, lift the other one. He says, I can't, right? So your free will is only up to the limit that you have been bestowed, but the rest is actually all ingrained in because of Allah. But neuroscience actually doesn't care about how you came into this world, how this world will end, whether God exists or God doesn't exist, whether I have a conscious, whether I have a free will. Brain science doesn't care about this thing. But what brain science can do is actually record changes that happen in response to your thinking as a free will person. That we can monitor, and we know that superior geniculate nuclei in your brain is the one that actually allows you to make that will and that power, that choose that power. Somebody had to ask Imam Ali, what is the link between body and soul? And Imam Ali alayhi salam said the same, that a word has to its meaning, right? So without the actual meaning, the world is useless, and vice versa. So I think, the free will, whether we have is a human free will, absolutely. You have the free will, but how do you execute it, tazkiyah nafs, that you have to go to those who are utiul ilm and rasikhuna fil ilm, because their knowledge is far more superior than us. So we have to do ruju, or towards Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family, for actually conscious guidance that will allow you to execute. And I give you an example. Let's say you fight with your neighbor, right? And then the desire, which is animalistic desire in us, that desire tells us that, okay, you should throw a rock at them, right? So you think about throwing a rock or hurting them, and then all of a sudden your desire will ask your intellect, what should I do? He said, throw a rock. It says, but how can I do this? It will invoke your ilm, knowledge. वो इल्म से पूछेगी कि मैं कैसे करूं? इल्म कहेगा कि हुलेल बना ले, मिंजनीक बना ले, पे पत्थर मार दें, right? So all these three sifats that you have, will, free will, and interwill, they all conspired, and at that time your conscious will come in and says, you shouldn't do this. Neighbor ke rights hain, iski rights hain, I should not hurt another human being, I should not do this. So your conscious is actually something that is more determining for free will, and it can only be guided and corrected through the teachings of our Masumeen.
I have one more question. It was, how is it that we have free will, but Allah knows even what we will look like 2 years later, or even what we will be thinking 2 years later from now?
So again, great question. Maulana is the best person to really answer this. But Allah, if Allah had not given you the free will, it would not have been possible for you to be judged. The angels don't have free wills. They've been created in ruku. They are in ruku. They are created in sujood. They are in sujood. they actually do nothing else. For them, there is nothing, no hisab, no jaza or saza. But humans, for us to be able to get judged, he had to provide us with both instinctive abilities, whereby we can actually choose between right or the wrong path. And that is really what determines the critical for our judgment as well. Otherwise, we would have been robots just like, the angels. Sure. This mic coming around, so.
If we die and our robots die, what happens next?
If we die, then there is usually, I tell you a funny story, but it should not go out of this hall, okay? Because I will get in a lot of trouble. We were testing our chip, so we wanted to test it on human. We asked for a human cadaver, dead person. That person was brought to us, but we said we only need the head. We don't need the whole body because carrying the body is a problem. The person had died only 10 days or 2 weeks, the one that I showed you the pictures of. We planted the chip in the brain, we were testing. I had all the controls, and whenever surgeon or an engineer talked, its auditory cortex discharged, and I could actually record. And that enforced my faith that when we do talqeen, लोग कहते हैं कि तलखीन कर रहे हैं तो मुर्दा ये क्या सुनता है? Actually, that person is listening because your auditory cortex is still intact and is discharging because it is so close to your ear, and that part of the brain is really the most resilient. So when we die, our soul departs, the body decomposes, right? But for robot, when the robot actually goes down, we can fix that robot. Right? We can fix that robot if its battery is down, we can fix it, we can bring him back, just like we also revive humans that are very close to death. We can also revive them by doing CPR or by stimulating their heart. Okay?
So like you said earlier that there's such thing as robots that can have feelings. So if the robots have feelings and anger, couldn't they like revolt against the humans?
Great question. May Allah bless you. Absolutely. I think that's the biggest fear that they have, that if they get our limbic system, this is where the goodness and the bad aspect of it is. So what actually happens is that they will get the feelings of love and hate. They will also be revengeful, and they may turn against each other. They could be good or bad robots as well. Right? So it is really possible, and if they get the free will that they can do whatever they want to do, they will create another race that could fight with each other or destroy each other, or they could be good robots, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "Hasta la vista, baby."
Okay. I also have another question. Like, couldn't a hacker or something hack robots and like make them revolt against other people that they want to revolt against?
Great question. This is what the Pakistani community most worried about: Bill Gates planting chips in people to detect whether the person is vaccinated or not, right? So in my province, each and every one of us was given a software, okay? So if you were not vaccinated and you were within 15 meters to my distance, I will get a call that this person who's approaching you is not vaccinated, right? So they're tracking you, and that's why in United States, even the Kennedy's son has started a movement that we don't want to get vaccinated because these vaccines have nanoparticles, and these nanoparticles are trackers. They can track you. Actually, I have a chip on my own here. I have a chip implanted that can detect, has all my records. So when I went to the airport just this time, they asked for my vaccination record. I put my wrist, and they all said that, "You crazy? What's happening?" I said, "Well, bring the sensor." And they put this, and it beeped that he's clear to go. So all the information now is being put on those chips, but they cannot be hacked until you're really that close to the distance. But it is possible to hack those.
So, what would robots do to help us?
The robots are already helping us, right?
What would they do? Like, if they hack, like other people hack, then if they betray us,
So they can take your test for you, right? Wouldn't that be really cool? You can send a little robots and then it will answer all the questions, you get the marks as well. So, you know, when we design these devices, they have a purpose. They have a particular purpose, and then only that limit their program to be able to really do things. Okay?
and why do we need robots?
Because we need robots because they're very helpful, right? They help us doing so many things, and they could do things much more faster, much more quickly, much more effectively, and they don't cost us salaries. Jay?
So do you see this technology replacing the conventional education system in the future? So for instance, if a kid wants to be a doctor, they buy a chip, you plant it in the brain, and they have all the needed technology or the education. So is that the future we're heading to?
This is really not that feasible, that possible, because we don't really know much about the interworking of the brain. We don't know where learning and memory is. We don't know where conscious is. We don't know where subconscious is. But you know, for simple aspects of it, you could, but then you would need the ability to be able to transplant, plant this chip inside the brain. That is very expensive and an extensive surgery. You may end up damaging the normal parts of your brain as well, right? So it's really not worthy. We do this only in those conditions where there is no cure. There is really no other alternative, because if your brain cell dies, it's done, it's kaput, it will not be replaced. Stem cell therapy is not going to work in the brain because they turn into tumors. So the only way you could do is to really have motor control. So if your spinal cord is broken, your brain contact with spinal cord is lost, but the spinal circuitry is there, right? Your spinal cord has a network that generates rhythmic output. So, you know, one of the funny story that got me interested in neuroscience was the Second World War movie where a British soldier gets out of his trench and he's running toward German and firing his machine gun, and a grenade falls. His head is decapitated. He continues to run. And that scared the bejesus out of Germans. They thought the British soldiers could fight without their heads intact. They called them demons of the battlefield. And you've seen the chicken too, when you cut the heads off in the barn, they continue to run. So your spinal cord actually has the circuitry. So if you plant a chip in the spinal cord that a person can control with their own hands using a remote control, this person can perfectly walk. You can accelerate, you can decelerate, just like your car turn left or right. So this is possible in circumstances when there is no cure or treatment. But just as a hobbyist to pass the exam, I don't think I will encourage anyone to do this. So there are too many hands. Go ahead. So, you know, once the chip is implanted, it becomes part of your body. So you cannot really take it out or reuse it anywhere else, because your own Schwann cells, they will encircle that chip so tightly that it becomes part of your own body. And if you disrupt it, it will break all these electrodes, all the sensors that we've built in, transistors, they have capacitors on them. They will also get ripped. So you cannot really, somebody died, you can't go and steal all their data or their information. So, and also you need a proper really algorithms and software to read it. So in some cases they are being used, in some instances of temporary installments like detecting epilepsy in patients, where the surgeon will plant the chip and detect the seizures and find out, and when they reopen to remove, they also remove those electrodes as well. But I think it's coming mainstream pretty soon for, you know, spinal cord injuries, and also for certain parts of the brain, the sensory motor cortex, when it's damaged.
robots could have emotional, like I believe one of the panels asked about there, regarding the emotional involvement of the pathway circuitry in the brain. Do you think that we could theoretically implant emotions as well as memories inside?
So that really is also a great question. So, you know, your childhood memories when you were 2 years of age, they are actually stored in your brain. But you don't know the name of the file and the folder. So you cannot really recall that folder. So when we have a near-death experience, you're driving and a 50-ton truck comes in front of you, your life flashes. Actually, that flash of light is when your adrenaline pumps your heart. The heart sends most of its blood to your brain. When it goes to brain, those memories will flash in front of your eyes, right? So the memories are actually stored in the brain, but each and every individual person's memory is very unique to them. Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam had also said, Mawla's saying is that what great tendencies our brain has, that it has the ability to remember and also to forget. And both of them are extremely useful to us, right? This was, 1300 years ago. So the ability to have a memory, your memory is only unique to you. It cannot be recapitulated. You don't know what was the temperature in the room. You don't know what the smell of the room was. You don't know what the lighting was. You don't know what the context was. So it is almost impossible to recapitulate an individual's memory because that is your own unique story, which only you have the ability to really recapitulate. So memory, our lab was the first to recapitulate memory on a silicon chip, right? We could train a circuit to exhibit a memory which was then remembered by the chip as well. So it's only, at the limited level you can recapitulate memories, but otherwise it's impossible to reimplant memories or change. We can change the emotions. So I didn't show you the data where we actually have these virtual reality, augmented reality, whereby people who have had severe accidents, we can actually take them under the same scenario where a soldier was driving with his companions and a bomb exploded underneath an improvised device and many people died and he was injured. That post-traumatic stress disorder will make his life debilitating. You see US soldiers, committing suicide. We can take them back, recapitulate that scenario, but the outcome is much better, right? So you can actually reprogram those emotional aspects of it, but you cannot plant memories. So that was our major really concern, that if a glial cells, astrocytes or glial cells, they come in between your brain cell and the chip, your connection is lost. Houston, we lost the connection, right? So the connection got lost, but we were really amazed because we designed the silicon dioxide, which is an inert. So when it actually implanted in your body immune system won't react to it. Just like your coronavirus has developed the ability that all of its spikes are coated with sugar molecules. So when it actually comes, and I was talking to these kids this afternoon when we were driving here, the coronavirus comes usually from bats. The bats don't go in the UV light outside, right? And also bats hang together, and so they live in a dirty place. The virus has to constantly mutate. So the virus mutates all the time. And then what happens is, when a bat flies, its body temperature goes to 41 and 42 degrees. So virus is adapted to live as well. So when the virus infects us, body temperature goes up to combat it, but it says, hal mein mazid, hal mein mazid. I don't care about the temperature. But those spikes are actually coated with sugar. So your body's immune system gets completely fooled until the virus digs in deep. And then it's just like the guards outside the bank. The guards were sleeping, the burglars got in, and then when the guards heard the firing, they went and started to shoot indiscriminately, killing their own people. That's where your autoimmune system causes the most damage to our own body. It's not really the virus destroying the lining of your lung epithelium. The same thing we were worried about, but it turns out that the silicon dioxide is inert and the body's immune system doesn't care. Okay. Okay. Very good. But the temperature really doesn't, your brain temperature has to be maintained very good. But the question that you can turn around and ask me is that you have heard that only 3% of your brain, total brain, works, right? Einstein maybe used 4% of the brain. How is it possible that we can get more parts of the brain to work? The rate limiting factor for your brain function is not the brain's ability or its temperature or its situation, right? The main function of the brain is actually the heart's ability to pump blood to your brain. 20% of your total body blood from your heart goes to your brain, okay? And your heart can't do any more. And that's what the rate limiting factor is, right? So then I said you have adrenaline pumping your blood, the more blood goes to your brain, the more brain function becomes available. So the temperature doesn't affect the brain, it's actually blood, which is limited because heart cannot supply more than 20% to your brain. But when you cut all the other parts, distractions, your brain gets much more focused, right? So then its capabilities are enhanced. But in some cases, if your brain's temperature goes up and it's not regulated, you will have seizures right away. So some fever, high fever, can trigger seizures in your brain because the brain just goes bananas, right? It's firing away, it's discharging, and people will have full-blown seizure. I don't think I can do that because, if I have a robot, I don't need the organs from humans because they will be usually diseased. Nihari, Pai, the heart is already half damaged. I don't need the brain that has never been used. And I don't need the liver that has been destroyed because of, all the things that it has to clear. The robots don't need any organs, right? Well, in some cases, you have seen recently in the United States, the heart of a pig was transplanted into a human, but they had to genetically modify, right, the heart. So the genetically modified organs could be transplanted, but we don't need it. The whole idea of robots is to get away from these organs because they age with time and they are irreplaceable in most cases. So, there is a sermon of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha where he talks about heart's ability. And Quran also says, Fuad, the seat of intellect is declared as your heart because heart sinoatrial node is the seat of intellect. This is Fuad where actually cardiac impulse is triggered. And this cardiac impulse then supplies blood to your brain, right? So that's how the brain functions. But as a reciprocal aspect, your heart actually has brain cells. It functions the same way. There are brain cells and neurons in your heart. So heart and brain are actually very similar in parts. The heart doesn't think, but it does have thinking brain cells into it. So they are really connected with each other and they all support each other. So if you have no oxygen that's going through your heart, your brain is dead within 5 minutes. It's done, it's kaput, right? It will not be able to, you will not be able to revive it. The brain cells will immediately die. And if your brain can do all it can, but if the heart dysfunctions, you're going to have a cardiac arrest. Yeah.
You introduced a lot of technologies of the future. So I want to introduce it to the kids, but kids have different levels of curiosity. What is your recommendation on how we can introduce these to the kids without sort of overwhelming them? And what is your recommendation, or do you have any resources that can help us easily do this?
So great question. So as I said, you can only go from good to great in the area that you're good at. I knew that my math wasn't really that good. So I said, how can I avoid math? And I was interested in more biology. So, once you realize what you're good at, you can go from good to great in the area that you're good at, but these kids are good at too many things. So how do you actually get them involved? I suggest that let them try different aspects for themselves. Don't force them. Don't live your dreams through your children. We brown people are very conniving and manipulative. We manipulate our children. They don't even know. Every day and day out, we try to tell, देखो उनका बेटा डॉक्टर बन गया, उनका बेटा ये हो गया, और तुम जो हो अभी क्या कर रहे हो ये. So what actually happens is that we take away their own passion. And the passion is something that's really important. You don't know how many Pakistani doctors come to me and they say, I didn't want to be a doctor. My parents forced me, and when this beeper goes, I want to throw this away and kill that old lady and just strangle her. She's paging me all night. So they have never really lived their own dreams and their own passions. So I think let kids try, but then tell them that whatever you're going to pick, you need to be the best that you can be. And I think love them for all of that. They are, in the end, the children are a gift of Imam Zaman alayhi salam to us. They are a collective gift. And it takes actually a village to raise a child. So this is something that's really important, and the entire community comes and expose them to different areas. And so we are building a university in Pakistan that is based on the actual teaching of Imam Joffrey Sadiq alayhi salam. That will be one-stop shop. We call it Knowledge Mall. So we are building a central dome, which is a central domain. We bought 60-acre land in Islamabad, and it has 5 wings, and then each and every wing then has 12 corners and 14 sections in it. And so the idea is to create a one-stop shop, which is Knowledge Mall. We will bring high school children. We will rotate them through all of these: artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, biomedical engineering, tissue engineering. Those days are gone when you had one discipline and you excelled. Those days are gone. These kids need to be exposed to multiple interdisciplinary technologies. Try them out, and then they will pick the area, and we will be watching them. When we see this kid is actually interested in more good in biomedical engineering, we empower them in that direction, and then really let them fly soul in that area. So, children can actually have their own intuitive intelligence. We should respect it, we should empower them, and we should do everything to make them succeed in their own passion. They will love the job. And I wake up in the middle of the night, my wife will say, "Kya hua?" I said, I just got a great idea. And she says, "Shut up and go to sleep, and let me sleep." I have on my side table actually note that I will write down. Right? So that is, I still go in the lab and do the experiment because I love what I do, and I do what I love. Gee, I think ladies raising hand. So that's a really great question, and currently we actually have one young Shia kid who is in 26 years of age in Toronto. He just had an accident. He smashed into a tree with his car, and I just had discussion with his parents. Doctor said that he's brain dead. There's nothing can really be done, and they asked me whether they should pull the plug. There were many different complications. But in some instances, when the actual brain is not damaged per se, 5 minutes, if you don't get the oxygen, brain cells will die. So if your bulb is fused, that can be changed. If the plug is broken, that can be fixed. But if the wiring is gone, it is really very difficult to recapitulate. But we have seen people in coma, they have come out on their own without actually doing this. But in some cases, if you have aided technology where you could really stimulate those parts of the brain cells, the cells that fire together, they wire together, and once they wire together, the person could actually come out of coma.
It's 11:30. We want to limit the number of questions right now.
Okay.
The 2 kids that have been raising hands.
All right.
Well, basically, when if in the future, if robots are like being at like stores and stuff instead of humans, how would humans get paid when robots are getting paid?
But the robots are not getting paid, but if a human doesn't stay active and effective and make useful, they will be replaced, right? And that's what is really worrying most people, that what will happen to all the jobs if a robot can do a job of 10 people, why should I hire 10 people? That's why you really have to stay at the forefront, make so that you are irreplaceable in your job.
If bats are going to still be alive when robots come, and bats spread the virus, and in the future if a virus comes, are robots going to get the virus?
Robots are not going to get the virus, right? Because they don't have the diseases or they don't have the system to be affected. The virus that will affect the robot is actually the virus that is created for your computer as well, right? So those viruses come and they infect and they hijack your computer. Those are the human-made or the electronics or computer-made viruses that will affect the robots. They'll turn you against, or they will become your supporters. But the biological viruses cannot affect the robots. The biological viruses that affect us, because we are biological, the biological weapons, just said viruses affect us, but they won't affect the robots.
I have another question. If these robots in the future, could they be like waterproof by like water, or would they be like corrupted?
So, again, if the robot is designed to become a submarine, the submarine is waterproof, right? If you think of it as a robot, the water doesn't affect because it is made to be waterproof.
Sure. I think 2 more questions, please. एक बच्चा यहाँ से भी काफी देर से हाथ खड़ा किया है।
जी बेटा। Great question. That's really great question. So, when a baby is born, baby has twice the number of brain cells, but soon after birth, half of them die. And when they are dead, they will not be replaced. So what happens is that why would Allah give us, brain cells that cannot replace or repair? So what happens is that, as I said, there is only 3-4% of the brain is used. Other brain cells step in, right? They step in to help out. Just like in the community, when somebody is sick, somebody steps up to help them out, right? So the brain cells actually help out. So we had a Chinese patient who had stroke. His language, English speaking language, was gone, but his Chinese was perfectly intact. Because the Chinese language is actually based on not alphabets, but on shapes. So the shapes are stored in different parts of your brain, right? So different parts of the brain could step in to be able to actually help you out. So the same thing you could do is that if you may not get the full recovery, but other brain cells. I'll give you an example. If you have a kitty cat And kitty cat is born, you put one patch over its one eye, just for 2 days, this kitty cat will be blind in that eye for life. Because when there is no connection coming from the eye to the brain, those brain cells actually give space to the right eye or the other eye, right? So that takeover occurs because it's a constant bargaining between brain cells, who should control which parts and how much. So in stroke patients, when certain parts of the brain cells die, to limited extent, the other parts of the brain step in to help out, right? They take the function. So people who are blind, their other senses are much more alerted than their vision, right? So they can't see, but their hearing, their feel, their touch, their sense of depth is far more greater than ordinary people. It's up to you. Beta. Sure, go ahead.
One more question. It's your turn.
Somebody from Canada who's watching this online is asking a question.
Then go ahead and ask, please. Go ahead and ask the question, please.
So she's saying that if the chip is already in the brain, once the person is dead, can the chip be taken out and he's seen everything that has happened in the life?
That's a great question, and I think a similar question was asked earlier as well, whether we can take that chip and try to recapitulate. So I think in some instances, if you have the ability to decode all the coding that was done onto the chip, you will be able to recapitulate it, right? So you will be able to actually see what it is that they have seen, and I can give you a whole sermon of Imam Ali about this, in this aspect as well. So if you have the actual chip that you have planted and you take it out, you can read it out, absolutely. I think there is one last question, this poor girl.
Go ahead. Can you speak up a little?
That's a great ethical question. So these questions often, people also ask us, what will actually happen in those cases where we alter something that was actually, God's way or God's will to be for a person to be diseased that way, or for example, a child to be born with Down syndrome. The test is not for that child, but it is for the family who will then really have to deal with this. But Allah has given us the power or the amr to be able to make sure that we correct those genetic defects. Allah doesn't make things that we do, right? Allah doesn't use cement or the bricks and put things. Allah empowers things. We do things that often are disruptive, that disrupt our genetic makeup, and if the gene is defective in some way, you can go and correct that gene and you can insert a proper gene. You are not interfering with the nature's process outside your own abilities, but you're doing within the capabilities that Allah has bestowed in you, right? So Allah has given you the ability to be heal and cure, and even though Allah is the Almighty. So I don't think there is anything wrong in that instance. Yes, changing people's looks and physical aspect of it, I would consider that unethical, and I think there will be very strict measures to be able to do this, but people will still do it, right? And in China, they are creating these, engineered babies. And this is what Hitler also wanted to have, super race. But look what happens in the end, right? It's never a good. You know that the white race is the mutant. Humans, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was dark. All the prophets were dark because they came from Africa, right? This is where the civilization came. So when they lived in Iceland, what happened was that because there is very little sunlight, the skin pigment started to mutate. So CNXQ gene mutation took place that turned them into white-skinned people. And when they migrated to United States, this is where the white race came with blue eyes, and then the rest of them migrated to Europe, and that's how that race came. But you should take pride. This is original.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم رسول اللہ, السلام علیکم نبی اللہ, السلام علیکم امیر المومنین, السلام علیکم فاطمۃ الزہرا سیدۃ نساء العالمین, السلام علیکم ایھا الحسن المجتبی, السلام علیکم ابا عبداللہ, السلام علیکم ابن رسول اللہ, السلام علیکم علی جدک و ابیک, السلام علیکم علی امک و اخیک, السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ, السلام علیکم مولا ابو العباس یا قبل ہاشم ابن امیر المومنین ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ, السلام علیکم بنت رسول اللہ, السلام علیکم بنت نبی اللہ, السلام علیکم بنت امیر المومنین, السلام علیکم زینب کبریٰ, السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ, السلام علیکم سیدی مولا علی ابن حسین و محمد ابن علی و جعفر ابن محمد, موسیٰ ابن جعفر ولی ابن موسیٰ و محمد ابن علی ولی ابن محمد والحسن ابن علی, السلام علیکم مولانا صاحب اسو الزمان علمان علمان علمان, السلام علیکم خلیفۃ الرحمن, السلام علیکم شرق القرآن, السلام علیکم امام انس والجان, السلام علیکم امام زمانہ ھذا, عجل اللہ تعالی فرجک و سہل اللہ تعالی مخرجک و ظہورک و رحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.
You can ask the question now.
Good job, man. Jazakallah, jazakallah, jazakallah.